stand up again.
Oh, sorry. I do solemnly, sincerely and truly declare and affirm that the evidence I shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
Please have a seat. Don't be nervous.
Thanks,
Yes, Mr. Moss.
Just start by giving us your full name, if you would, please.
Louise Lewis.
Thank you. If we can have on screen, please, LCC 001771. Ms. Lewis, can you just confirm, please, that this is your statement to this inquiry?
It is.
Just keep your voice up.
Sorry, it is.
Thank you. It's dated the 28th of August 2025. And are the contents of the statement true to the best of your knowledge and belief?
It is.
Thank you. We see in the introductory matters on page 1 that you were at the material time a family support worker employed by Lancashire County Council. Is that right?
Correct, yes.
And tell us a little bit about your background. You're a nursery nurse, I think, originally by qualification.
Yes.
With a BTEC in nursery nursing, is that right?
That's correct, yes.
How long did you do that for?
About 15 years.
And then you moved after that into children and family wellbeing around 2020, was it?
I worked for children's social care prior to that as a family support worker, and then we progressed due to the structure of the service. We moved over to the family intensive support team under children and family wellbeing service.
Thank you. When you came to work in the family intensive support team, can you just help a little bit about the training that you would have received?
Obviously, the training I've received up until then is obviously been in the job for 28 years. We did training around safeguarding. What else? Neglect. A lot of safeguarding training.
Your background originally, I think, had, as you've told us, had been in nursery nursing. Mm-hmm. Had you worked with teenagers before?
No, it was 0 to 8.
Help us just a little bit to understand. Obviously, you've said you had training in safeguarding in relation to neglect. Did you get training in basic mental health, the sort of struggles that teenagers might have with mental health?
Not at the beginning, because obviously at the time when we worked with the 0 to 8, so it was mainly around the family support and the young children around the development. It's obviously when we came into the family support role, where as more and more trainings become available when we went to the 0 to 19 service.
Okay, again, just try and keep your voice up just a little bit. So you didn't have training in that at the start, is that what you're saying? But did you then get some once you were in post in the FIS team, in
Yes.
mental health?
Yeah.
So, for example, I'm not at the moment talking about AR, but working with children with autism, you would have had practical experience of that?
No.
Would you have had practical experience of it once you started doing the job?
Through experience and through the knowledge of working with other professionals within my service, and and my own sort of expertise, really, just.
Yeah, so apart from AR, did you have other children that you worked with who had autism or a condition on the spectrum?
Most of our cases that we do deal with are children on the ASD spectrum or on the ADHD spectrum.
So you hadn't come across that in your previous work, but once you started working for the Child and Family Wellbeing Service, you started to see cases of that, yes?
Yes.
All right. Did you have any formal training in that, or did you learn on the job?
Learn on the job.
And what about in relation to the PREVENT programme and radicalisation risks? Can you remember, don't guess if you can't remember, but can you remember if you had any training in relation to that?
I had some online training. Can't remember when that was. And that's it.
Can you remember, I don't expect you to remember page 1 and page 2, but what did you take away from the online training in Prevent?
Basically what the service was about, who did the support and who, and what to look for.
And what sort of things were you to look out for?
If a child becomes vulnerable or shows any kind of concern around extreme behaviours.
Concern around extreme behaviours. Yeah. Thank you. Now, your involvement with AR, just so that we've got the dates in mind, at a very high level of overview, I think you had involvement only in the period September 2021 to March 2022. Is that right?
Yes.
And before we turn to your own involvement with AR, let's just, because you're the first of the family support workers to give evidence, can you just help us a little bit with what the role involves? How would your average day be taken up in terms of the sort of interventions that you'd be involved in? Just give us an overview.
Basically, we're a service that provides support for children, families and young people around behaviours, parenting, education,
So I think for some of them initially, would you be involved in doing a form of assessment?
Yes.
And what was this form of assessment that you did?
It was just, we have 2 assessments. We have what we call a full early help assessment, which I think referred to as a CAF on the statement, but it changed to an early help assessment, which is where we get information from another agency and then we do our own assessment, and then when we get a step across, a step down at the time, we do a partial assessment, which is just basically in the family and the young person's radar.
So some of the time you'd have been doing that type of assessment. Don't worry too much about the label CAF sometimes, or early help assessment. And then we see full of 3-letter acronyms. Yeah, we see a TAF as well, team around the family. Just tell us in simple terms what that was about. What was the purpose of them? What was it all about?
The purpose of the team around the family was to bring professionals and the family together to look a plan of support, what support that the family want, what support was identified at the time when I was working, when I got the AR case, what was identified from the social worker's assessment.
And would it be your responsibility to decide who to invite to those team around the family meetings?
With the information that we get at the time, then we would invite the people who are involved at the time.
Yeah.
So at the time,
But in terms of sending out the invites and thinking, right, who should we have at the next meeting?
Yeah.
As the family support
It's
worker,
usually it's usually the ones who are already sort of involved at that point.
There might be some continuity, but you
Yeah.
would be looking at that. If something new developed and somebody new became involved with the child, you would look to invite them to the meeting.
Yes.
Parents and the child themselves, would they be involved in those meetings some of the time, all of the time? How did it work?
We always encourage the parents, and depending on the age of the young person, to attend the meetings.
All right, so we've got some early assessments. We've talked about the type of team meetings involving different agencies and the parents and sometimes the child. And what about the actual interventions? So education or behavioural encouragement, coping skills, matters of that kind. Do you get involved in that yourself in delivering it, or do you arrange for others? Is there a combination? How does it work?
Whichever agency is involved at the time has their own specific action. So if it was around education, it'll be supporting the education to try and get the young person into education. If it's parenting support, then that'll be delivered by myself or another worker on a one-to-one basis, depending on how the family want that support to that parenting course to be, whether it's in a group or on a one-to-one. And then, sorry, what was the rest of it? Sorry.
So I was asking you about those interventions, who would do it, and I think
Yeah.
you're saying if it's education, it would be the schools themselves, but if it was parental support, parental classes, you might do some of that.
Yeah.
Some of that could also be external courses
Yes.
might be provided.
Yes.
Thank you. And all of that, I think we've heard from the previous witness that this is, in technical terms, of what was called level 3 on the continuum of need. And I think that was dependent upon consent of the family, yes?
Yes.
And without necessarily having to go back to the diagram, I think at level 3, you would be dealing with families where the assessment was that they were struggling to cope. Is that right?
Yeah.
Is that the test? Yeah. And to go up to level 4, you would be assessing that at that level, the family really was not coping in the language of the continuum of need. Is that right?
Yes.
I may ask you a couple of times about whether, for AR's case, it might have been appropriate for him to be stepped up back from level 3, your level, to level 4. If that was going to happen, first of all, in terms of suggesting that it might be time to happen, could you, as the caseworker, make that suggestion, if that was your professional view?
We had to have a discussion with my line manager, and then we would look at the next stage, whether we
But you could start that process by saying to the line manager, I'm worried about child X. I think that they are possibly a candidate for being stepped up. You could start that conversation with your line manager.
Yeah.
But the decision around that, who would take the decision?
It'll be children's social care.
So they would have to accept the case
Yes.
based upon what? A case being made or a submission being put by your supervisor?
Yeah, and also, as well, the consent of the parents.
Thank you. Let's look then at the involvement that you did have with AR. And as I've touched upon, it started in September 2021, yes?
Yeah.
And at that stage, do you remember that AR's case was being stepped down from Children's Social Care to the Child and Family Wellbeing Service?
Yes.
And in general terms, what do you remember was the focus of the case at that stage, just in general terms, in your own words?
The focus was around isolation, not attending school, parenting within the home. Without looking at my statement, I can't really.
Were there difficulties with the relationship between AR and his father?
There was, yes.
And would it be right, in fairness to you, in terms of what was coming into you, that the focus as it was presented was therefore about the risks and difficulties for AR and his difficulties in coping?
So I don't.
Was the main focus on the needs of AR, his difficulties in coping, his difficulties in the home?
Yes.
Do you remember there being much focus at the start on the risk that AR may pose to other people?
No.
And the reason, I think, why the case had gone to children's social care before being stepped down was that AR's father had made a request, is this right, for a statutory assessment for the two brothers under Section 17.
I can't remember.
You can't remember that?
No.
Could we have on the screen LCC 30247? This is the assessment that they had made, Children's Social Care had made, LCC 30247. So we see it headed CNF assessment, and it's a safeguarding assessment, child and family assessment. So is that consistent with that they had done an assessment and it was now being stepped down?
Yes.
And would this have been a main initial source of information for you about AR's case?
Yes.
Would you have gone elsewhere for information about his case, or would you have just relied on this assessment form?
We would have get information from, if there wasn't other agencies on that, we'd get information from other agencies that might be involved at the time.
Thank you. Would you have looked back through the notes from your own agency, from social care? Would you have been able to see the social care notes?
I don't know what do you mean, the notes?
So there are effectively two teams. You have children's social care and you have the child and family well-being. While the case was being looked at by children's social care, are you on your computer able to see their notes?
Read only, yeah, not at the time
Yeah.
in the assessment. When it was sat with them, not at that time, but obviously when it comes down to us, we can look back on read only.
So you can see the notes on read only, but you can't change them.
No.
All right. And would you have looked at those sort of notes, or would you have been reliant on their assessment form?
More relying on the assessment, just don't have time to look through every case note, every conversation.
If we can look at page 6 on this, and if we look towards the bottom of page 6, we just have the bottom couple of paragraphs highlighted, bottom 3 paragraphs. So the last paragraph, it's the assessing social workers, so that's children's social care, yes, judgment that AR has some unmet needs relating to social isolation, poor diet, eating concerns. He requires a special educational needs school placement, which isn't yet in place, and much anxiety, which is supported by the CAMS team. AR requires further support outside of the family. It's assessed that AR falls at level 3 on the continuum of need, and his needs could be met through family intensive needs team. So that's your team, yes? The longer-term support required to develop AR social skills could be met through a carer. In your statement, we don't need to turn it up, but so for your note, it's paragraph 14.
Thank you.
You say that you recollect that the youth offending team, as well as other agencies, but you refer to the youth offending team, the yachts, were still involved. In fact, by this time, that the yachts had finished their involvement, but you were at least aware that they had been involved.
Yes.
Yeah. And would you have understood from that that AR would have had a criminal conviction?
Possibly.
Would you have been able to look at the yachts side of records on the Lancashire systems or
No.
not? No. Again, just try to keep your voice up. I know it's difficult, but we've got to try to get it on the transcript, and people do need to hear. I know it's difficult, but just keep your voice up nice and loud. Would the fact that the yachts had previously been involved had caused you to make further inquiries, to look back through the records or ask questions about what the criminal past had been?
We'd only go if the information that we presented with at the time, and that the information we presented with at the time was from the assessing social workers assessment.
Looking at this assessment form, if we look at the top of page 6, where we are at the moment, but if we can just look at the top of the page, there's a couple of references to it. We see a reference to prevent here in the form. There's a reference to prevent as well on page 3, which we don't need to look up. But you would have been able to take from this at least that there'd been a previous referral to
Yes.
prevent, yeah? We've also got here these references to the knife incidents previously. So referral received from Lancashire Police, the initial referral from Childline, AR being bullied by another pupil in school, had taken a knife from his kitchen to school on several occasions. It didn't tell you how many,
No.
and it didn't tell you anything about the intent that he'd taken the knife to school with.
No.
And then, next paragraph, AR had reportedly attended school and assaulted another pupil with a hockey stick. He also had a knife in his backpack, which was intended for another pupil who was bullying him. And during the assessment, it transpired that AR had been viewing inappropriate and violent extremist material. AR was referred to Prevent, there's the reference to Prevent, who assessed and concluded there was no evidence of AR having any concerning ideologies. So that much would have been available to you, do you agree?
Yes.
But again, it didn't say anything in relation to that about the actual conviction for the hockey stick attack.
No.
And it didn't tell you information about, other than that he intended to attack a bully as perceived, it didn't tell you anything about how serious his intent was.
No.
Thank you. We look at page 5. If we can have the main part of the bigger block of text highlighted, please. We can see here that, without my reading it all out, but I'll just give you an opportunity just to cast your eye over the second, third and fourth paragraphs just a little bit. We can see that there's an issue raised about whether father had used violence towards AR and whether the father had used violence towards Dion, and Dion being spoken to alone about that and saying that he had no worries and that in fact his father hadn't hit him or slapped him at all. Do you see that?
Yeah.
Fourth paragraph, all right? And so you would have been put on alert that one of the things that may be going on was of AR making false allegations against his father.
Potentially, yes.
And we also see within this that there was reference to AR throwing plates and water at his father. So you'd been aware, I think, of that sort of level of violent behaviour within the home by AR.
Yes.
Yep. So there was more recent troubling behaviour by AR being reported on top of a very worrying background in terms of previous multiple occasions of carrying knives. Would you agree?
Yes.
Was that typical, Ms. Lewis, of the type of case that you saw at level 3? Or was that on the more serious end?
At the time when we got that, it was manageable at level 3. It was a low-level case. AR presenting as a young person with ASD tendencies, and it wasn't uncommon for to be tensions within the house between parents and children.
Yeah, tensions in the house, ASD tendencies, of course. But really what I was focusing on, how typical would it be for a level 3 case to have a case of a boy who had got previous occasions, you didn't know exactly how many there were, but previous occasions of carrying knives to school, one set of events, and then an actual assault on another boy with a hockey stick and carrying knives, and then not just tensions in the home, but some acting out of violence in the home against dad. How common was that sort of pattern at level 3?
Not very common.
So towards the more serious and more complex of type of case for level 3, would that be fair? You must say if you disagree.
No, the time we were a low-level service, if this information was to come in now, we would expect it to remain with children's social care.
Right. So now, as the services run now, that would be a case for social workers?
That's what, yeah.
I don't think at this stage, although there was reference to prevent and reference to the internet generally, I don't think you had information as such about AR researching school shootings.
No.
I don't think you were told the information about asking if they could have pictures of severed heads at school.
No.
No. You're shaking your head and looking to the side. Is that the first time you've heard that?
Yes.
Yeah. Or talking about videos that he'd seen where drill bits might fly off and kill people?
No. Wasn't aware.
Again, you look surprised, but this just wasn't information you were aware
No.
of. And I've touched on the fact that the material didn't deal with the intent for the previous knife incidents, and the inquiry has heard evidence that AR had said that he intended to use the knives when carried, all right, that he made those comments himself, and that they were recorded by professionals at the time, at the earlier stages. And I don't think, at least in this document, you would have picked that up from this assessment form.
No.
There'd been an incident in January 2021 where AR had threatened to damage his father's laptop, was trying to get at his father's laptop, and had then kicked him in the midriff, in the crotch, which had led to AR's father inappropriately slapping him in return. In terms of AR's use of violence, inappropriately threatening to damage the computer, and then when he couldn't get at it, physically kicking his father. Were you aware of that?
No.
Those matters were recorded earlier in the notes on the system. Some of them may have been in the social care notes, others in the CFW notes, but they were recorded in various places. Does it follow that you didn't read back and see those notes to get that information?
Yeah.
Do you think that you should have done? Do you think you should have? I know you said, well, there's not always time, but do you think you should have read back given the complexity of the case?
Yes.
Does that, though, also show that there's a bit of a problem with the system that was in place at the time? Because, please tell me if I have this wrong, but it doesn't sound like the computer system had an easy page that you could just look at and see all of the flags of significant past risk information in one place.
No.
It depended upon your motivation
Yeah.
and your time to go back and fish that information out of the system.
Yeah.
Yeah? All right. In your discussions generally, I'm not going to go through each and every one, in your discussions generally with other agencies, you said that was where you would get information. Did those points about intending to use the knife, discussion about severed heads, the drill bit, American school shootings, and so on, did you get that information from other agencies as your work went on, or
No.
was that all new to you today?
That's all new to me today.
All right, now you undertook an initial home visit on the 4th of October 2021. Do you have any recollection now yourself? Don't worry if you don't, but before I go to the documents, do you have any recollection of that first home visit?
No.
It was one that you did with Sharon Barrett. She was your supervisor throughout, yeah? You don't remember that first one. You'd have been seeing a lot of people.
I can't remember I remember doing the visit.
You remember doing
Yeah,
visits, but
yeah.
not that one specifically as opposed to any others?
No.
All right. Well, let's have a look at it. LCC 0002302. LCC 2 zeros. Thank you. LCC 2 zeros 2302. And page 48 within that, please, Sarah. Thank you. So this is the 4th of October entry. So Sarah, could I ask you if you can cut off everything to the left of Monday, 4th of October to make it as big as you can on the screen and just get the totality of that entry? That's perfect, thank you. So this is you with Miss Barrett, on arrival, greeted by Mum, who welcomed workers into the home. Dad was hoovering, AR was in the living room, explained to the family the referral received from the social worker. Parents and AR said they were aware of this, spoke with AR and his thoughts about where he's at with school and the referral. AR informed that he wasn't attending school, and when asked why, he wouldn't share, only saying, "Not until Alphonse does what I have asked him." So just pausing there, does that bring back any recollection at all?
Yes.
Yeah. So straight away, AR, would you agree, is trying to control things, and he was saying that he wasn't attending school and he wasn't going to share why that was the case until his father did what he, AR, wanted.
Yes.
Yeah, so trying to control things. Would you agree?
Yes.
AR wouldn't elaborate. Alphonse was asked by the worker, presumably you, and AR said, "You don't need to tell them, you don't have my permission." So again, AR directly intervening when you were speaking to Dad. Basically, AR is saying to Dad, "Don't tell them anything, you don't have my permission." Yes?
Yeah.
It was clear that Alphonse wanted to share this. However, Mum also didn't want him to say anything, saying AAA, waving her arms and indicating a zip action across her mouth. So Mum on this occasion was also saying to Father, "Don't tell the family support workers what the issue is."
Yeah.
What did you make of that?
Nothing out of the ordinary, to be honest. It's nothing that we don't come across when we do these initial visits. You know, obviously families are quite guarded on what they say. And all we can do is, you know, basically observe and hear, write down what we're hearing and what we observe.
But you would have formed the impression that AR was being slightly dominating, trying to control things in the family home.
Yes.
Yep. All right, so there's an attempt then, we can see from the notes, to get AR to understand the repercussions of what he was doing. If he didn't attend school, his parents could end up being fined, and that could have an impact on the family. AR didn't seem bothered saying that he makes his own money via the internet. All right? And I think that's in bold in the original. AR was asked to share what he was doing to make money, and he refused, saying, "You don't need to know." And then it looks like the worker, presumably you, highlighted to AR that this can become a cause for concern. AR stated, "It's fine, it's not illegal." And AR wouldn't allow the parents to share. So the note, in a sense, speaks for itself. But here you were getting information that AR had some means to make money on the internet, which he was saying was not illegal, but he was refusing to explain what it was and trying to prevent his parents from saying. Yes?
Yes.
And that, you say not unusual, but certainly concerning.
Yeah, concerning, but obviously we're a consensual service, so we wouldn't, once we've asked them questions and that's the response we get, that's what we've got no powers to explore that even further.
I understand that to an extent, but in terms of noting concerns, I'm not saying that it necessarily would be immediately challenged, but that's something, and it's noted, you'd want to take away against that background of earlier concerns about extremism, what he was doing on the internet, that he was making money on the internet and being quite firm about not wanting to share what he was doing online.
Yes.
That's concerning.
Yes.
Yeah. Again, keep your voice up. I know it's difficult. All right. There's then a discussion about the support and what can be offered, and what could do to help him to get back to school. And he said he likes news and what's going on. This gave AR the opportunity to talk about what's going on politically in the world. He was very opinionated and raised some good points. However, this came across as one-sided. And if said in the wrong environment, this may put AR in a compromising position. What did you mean by that?
He was obviously an autistic young person. He was very vocalised on what was going on in the world and politics. We did try to, some of the things that he did say, which wasn't cause of concern, but how it might be seen if he was to say that in a different arena than the family home.
So what sort of things was he saying in the privacy of his home which you thought could get him into a compromising position if he repeated it in the wrong environment?
I can't remember, to be honest.
AR didn't seem to understand that his opinions and thoughts may cause upset to other people. Can you help us with what he may have been saying that may have upset other people if he'd repeated them outside of the family home? What type of views?
No.
No. It's a reference to, and we can see that you're trying to draw him out. You're referring to, would he like to be a part of a youth council? That would interest him. Mm-hmm. Parents signed registration form and for consent, and there's an explanation of that given. It then says, this prompted AR to share his opinion on consent and information sharing, and felt that anybody can access his information and didn't want this. And it looks like either you or Ms. Barrett have then explained that only the Child and Family Wellbeing Service can access any information on the system, but information can be shared with other agencies if there are concerns. So just pausing there, that's fairly standard type of advice, would you agree?
Yeah.
It's explaining, we'll keep it confidential, but there are some circumstances that we may have to share it, yeah? And people will have a familiarity with that. But then he went on to say that MI5 and MI6 can access this if they want. This led on to him beginning, it may be being or beginning to be, vocal on politics, American government and Taliban. Can you remember anything about that, about how the Taliban cropped up?
No.
To give some context to that, and I don't expect you to remember this, but a few months before this, that there had been developments in Afghanistan. Kabul had fallen to the Taliban. Do you remember it coming up in the context of current affairs, or was he just talking about the Taliban more generally, or can you just not remember?
I just can't remember how the conversation.
But in the context of what you had seen about earlier prevent referrals, presumably a reference volunteered by AR to the Taliban would have been worrying?
Yes.
Thank you. Can you remember whether anything yourself, can you remember, as you think about it now, anything that was done about that?
No.
All right. Let's see if we can look at some documents to see if they help trigger your memory. So if you look at LCC 30977, this is the 12th of October 2021, and you'll see at the bottom that there was a Dear Colleagues type letter coming from an official at Lancashire County Council giving an update on prescribed terrorist groups, so unlawful terrorist groups. Do you see that there?
Yes.
Yeah. So if we can just go full page for the moment, please. All right. And it's then passed on, but what I'm interested in is the top email, because it seems that Miss Barrett then passes that email on with the list of prescribed terrorist organisations to you, saying, think we need to look at this with AR's parents. Do you see that there?
Yeah.
Do you have any recollection of that? It's not mentioned in your witness statement. I don't criticise you for that, but do you have any recollection of that now?
No.
That fits in, doesn't it, the timing of this, the 12th of October, with what we've just been looking at about the first home visit on the 4th of October?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate you don't have any memory now of this, but you've said that it would have been concerning. Would it have raised a concern for you about AR potentially being interested in extremist groups?
Not at the time, no. If obviously with everything, obviously with hindsight in what we know now, then it would have been.
Forget about the hindsight. I'm interested in what was happening at the time, because it seems that you're identifying in the meeting some of the things that you're saying could get you into trouble if you say them outside. There's then been a further discussion. He's shown an interest in politics, but he's referred to the Taliban in that context. And then 8 days later, your boss is sending you a list of unlawful terrorist groups and saying, I think you need to discuss this with AR's parents.
Yeah.
At about the same time, if we look at LCC 30780, it's a couple of days later, this is the 14th of October. And page 2, please, Sarah. Could we just have the whole of that email highlighted? Ms. Lewis, in fairness to you, we note that you're not copied into this email, all right? But it's going to Deb Cardwell. And do you remember that Ms. Cardwell was, I think, the supervisor of the targeted youth support team Carl Coughlin, yeah. So this is supervisor to supervisor. We've had a step down. Family feel that a targeted youth support worker would be helpful so AR can develop a relationship, and explaining that you are the case holder. Also, for your information, although the step down did not identify this, there are some concerns about how extreme some of AR's views are and the risk that this could pose. So we may also need to refer to prevent. Yes?
Yeah.
So it seems from that some early thinking was going on, that your service, the Child and Family Wellbeing Service, might need them yourselves to make a referral to prevent.
Yeah.
Yes? Presumably all arising from that discussion on the 4th of October.
Yes.
All right? And Ms. Lewis, I appreciate it is difficult. I've got to say in fairness to you that this note of the 4th of October was amongst the documents that were disclosed very late by the council, so you won't have had an opportunity to consider it for your statement, all right? So I appreciate it's new to you. As you sit there now today, do you know why there was no referral to prevent arising out of this?
I can't remember.
A couple of weeks further on the 1st of November, if we look at LCC 30321, and if we just have the bottom right-hand text highlighted, please, Sarah. We see there a reference in the penultimate paragraph. There's also been concerns in relation to AR's extreme thoughts around what's going on in the world and politics, which could put AR at risk of being involved in left-wing extremist behaviours, and his thoughts being said in the wrong environment may make him vulnerable. And in the first paragraph, about 3 or 4 lines down, we see that you were referring earlier on to the concerns about him viewing inappropriate and violent extremist material. Do you see that there in the notes I think you were making on the 1st of November?
I can see it here.
Yeah, the 2 bits that have been highlighted.
Yeah.
So you're, by this stage, clearly aware of the earlier concerns about inappropriate and violent extremist material. And again, this reference to extreme thoughts, what's going on in the world, politics, that all chimes, doesn't it? That all sounds like that 4th of October meeting that we were looking at.
Yes.
That's probably where you've got it from. Would you agree?
Yes.
I'm interested in just exploring what you say about that. AR at risk of being involved in left-wing extremists. Can you help us to where you got the left-wing extremists from?
It was just a general conversation that he was obviously interested in, obviously, things that were going on, and we had the conversation, if I remember rightly, that, you know, some of the thoughts that he had, you know, you may have not, you know, can be seen in the wrong domain.
They're
Leaving him vulnerable.
to the way that most people, certainly experts in the field, would describe it. Left-wing extremism and the Taliban are 2 quite different things. Were you using left-wing extremists to refer to the Taliban, or is that something different? Can you help us?
I can't remember, to be honest.
Thank you. In the assessment of needs that fell out of that, could I just have one moment? LCC 00321. Sorry, 3 zeros. If we look at, just take a moment to get your bearings on this at the top of the page. I'd gone to it, I think, too quickly. Can you see that this is the early help assessment
Yes.
that's completed? And I was saying that it was a 1st of November document. Do you see the date assessment completed is filled out there? I should have showed you this earlier on.
Yes.
All right, and if we just have the whole page, please, Sarah. So that's where I was taking the extreme thoughts. Do you see still highlighted at the bottom of the page?
Yeah.
Just if you can leave it as it is, but you see the 2 highlighted bits.
Yeah.
So that's the document I was taking you to. We go to page 2 now, please. And Sarah, could we have the whole of the passage marked assessed needs at the bottom of the page lifted? Expanded. So in terms of the assessed needs, the safeguarding ones are listed as online social media safety and risk of radicalisation. Yes?
Yes.
So at that stage, the 1st of November, it seemed to be contemplated that prevent safeguarding action might need to be taken. Would you agree?
Yes.
We've seen that from the materials we've looked at already that you were aware that there'd been a previous prevent referral, yes?
Yes.
Can you remember what your state of knowledge was about the previous referral or referrals as to whether they were open or had already been closed? Can you remember now?
They were already closed.
All right. If we look at a couple of documents in relation to that, if we could look at LCC 30401, and this is a CFW supervision form, and you'll see the date of it, the 2nd of November 21. Do you see that at the top?
Yeah.
All right. And just note the heading at the bottom. Adaptations have been made to the plan to better suit the needs of the family. And then if we just go over the page, there's some bullet points in relation to that. And then there's some references to the radar forms. And then there's a paragraph that says, AR has had a referral to prevent go-in from school due to his extreme views. This needs to be followed up as the outcome is yet unknown and AR remains at risk of becoming groomed by extremist groups. Do you see that there?
Yes.
So at this stage, the 2nd of November, it looks as though you didn't know what had happened to that prevent referral. The outcome is yet unknown. Would you agree?
Yes.
If we look at a similar form, another supervision form, this time for December, LCC 30404. So similar type of form, but now the 2nd of December. Do you see that there?
Sorry, what? Sorry?
So similar type of form, a supervision form, but the date is now the 2nd of December. Yes?
I've got the 27th. Oh, yes, sorry. Yeah.
You with me?
Yeah, there, yeah. Sorry.
It's not a trick, I assure you. 2nd of December, so it's a month later on, and you see the same type of heading at the bottom of the page. Adaptations have been made to the plan to better suit the family, and then over the page, same sort of bullet points there. But now we see Prevent have closed the case, no actions to be undertaken by that service, and then Team Around the Family meeting has not gone ahead, and so on. So it looks as though at some stage between the 2nd of November and the 2nd of December 2021, you learned that the school's earlier Prevent referral had in fact been closed. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, just keep your voice up.
Sorry, yes.
Do you think that you would have got that information from the school?
I can't remember at the time.
We know that the third referral to Prevent had actually been closed quite a bit earlier, on the 10th of May 2021. Do you think you would have learnt the date or the rough period of time when the school's referral had been closed?
I don't understand what you mean, sorry.
This document shows that you knew that the Prevent referral had been closed. I want to understand if you would have learnt when that had happened. We know that it happened quite a long time earlier, May of the same year.
Yeah.
Do you think you got that information, or was it all that you knew it had been closed at some time in the past?
It just being Prevent and then closed.
For you and Ms. Barrett, and I'm deliberately saying that the two of you, wouldn't it have been important to understand that, to know when the previous one had been closed? Because the two of you had had further information of concern given to you on this home visit.
Yes.
So against the need, do you remember I showed you the assessed need of a Prevent referral or Prevent radicalisation as an assessed need, as something that needed to be done for safeguarding? What action was taken by CFW and by you and Miss Barrett in relation to that? What intervention was actually done?
Can't remember.
Looking at it now, and throughout this, Ms. Lewis, you were under supervision, so I'm not raising this, do you understand? I'm not raising this as solely your responsibility, but looking at it as a team, does it not seem now quite clear that there should have been a Prevent referral, or at the very least, the information from the 4th of October should have been shared with others?
Yes.
And we understand that you're doing your best and it's difficult to remember, but can you help us at all as to why that didn't happen?
I can't remember.
Thank you. I asked you previously a little bit about the intention to use the knife not being apparent to you in the handover information. Do you think you ever got that information, that AR earlier on had said that he intended to use the knives?
Sorry, just repeat that, sorry.
Yeah. Do you remember I asked you questions early on about the handover information and the assessment forms, and it talked about the knife incidents, but it didn't seem to tell you the quite important information that AR back in the day in 2019 had said that he intended to actually use the knives and potentially to kill the person concerned, all right? You would have wanted to know that because it was relevant information, do you agree?
Yes.
All right. And we've looked at the fact that that information wasn't available to you on the forms, and you've accepted that perhaps you should have dug more into the information, but we've looked at the fact that the system didn't flag it up for you.
Yes.
Right? What I'm interested in understanding now is that after this home visit, as you did more work with AR, did you ever come to know that he'd said that about the knives?
No.
And if you did know that he'd said that about the knives, that would have made it even more obvious and important that a Prevent referral should have been made, yes?
Yes.
And so looking at this early stage of your involvement, would you agree that two areas of concern are, firstly, that a prevent referral wasn't made? Do you agree that that's a concern?
Yes.
And secondly, that you didn't have the full picture in relation to the risks that AR might pose to other people?
Yes.
All right, I want to turn to November 21 now and just look at some aspects in relation to further information and further visits. So there was a meeting between Ms. Barrett and Mr. Coughlin, the targeted youth support worker, on the 3rd of November. And can we just look at that, please? It's LCC 2302 at page 53. And it's the entry for the 3rd of November. It's the one in the middle of the page, Sarah. If, again, you can cut off the left-hand column. If Ms. Barrett was there with Mr. Coughlin, should we understand that you wouldn't have been at this particular meeting?
No.
All right. We get the essence of it. There's an introduction is being made. It starts off with an indication that he was doing one of the radar sessions, and I won't ask you about that. But it looks like it began to become a difficult exchange. Mum came into the room during the session, asked to speak to Ms. Barrett in private. This was seen to trigger AR, and he became very agitated. He was questioning what his parents were wanting to say. Then it looks like Ms. Barrett advised if they wanted to talk about AR, it would be advised that AR was part of the conversation as he's 15 years old. He has a say in the action plan. Both parents stated they were concerned that AR was being talked to alone, and that they were being kept out of things. And Ms. Barrett explained that AR is being given space and time to be able to express his thoughts and feelings so that the plan can support him and he can feel his voice is being heard. Parents were advised that they're aware of the plan and were in agreement with it and that nothing had changed. And then AR's behaviour started to escalate during the conversation. He expressed he was angry. Alphonse R stated that he was just concerned because he was the one that needed to safeguard AR as he's still only 15. At this point, AR stated, "Safeguard me, like when you hit me when I was 5. And AR was then drawn into an argument with his father, which led to AR stating, "You only don't hit me because you know I would hit you back, but you do hit Dion, don't you?" And parents both denied hitting Dion, and pausing there, we've seen references to the fact that Dion denied that his father had hit him. Dion had identified that he does not feel unsafe in the family home unless AR is kicking off. However, AR seemed very convinced that this was happening. Now, the reason, Ms. Lewis, why I'm showing you this, despite the fact that you weren't at this meeting, is that, again, is a concerning entry. Would you agree, in terms of what's going on with the family?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And although you weren't at the meeting, presumably you would have updated yourself as to what had happened at this meeting from
Yes.
the notes. Yeah. And assuming for the moment that AR may have been making false allegations about his father's conduct, that might be another sign of him manipulating things. Would you agree?
Yes.
And then we can take that down. Thank you, Sarah. We come into November, and I'm going to try to take this fairly briefly, but if we can start by looking at it in your statement at paragraph 29, page 5 of your statement. So there was an incident involving the police and the family home on the 5th of November involving AR and his parents. AR was on the sofa in the living room when someone knocked on the door. This agitated AR and he began throwing things. He calmed down after his parents called the police. And Child and Family Wellbeing Service were informed, but you can't recall what my response was. I think you would have had a discussion with the family around what happened and offer advice either verbally or written. And again, presumably that incident is a concern because it's a stranger coming to the door that sets AR off in the use of violence, starting to throw things around, yes?
Yes.
So that's not just violence in the context of a difficult relationship with his father, that's a reaction to a stranger coming to the door.
Yes.
Thank you. Now, in relation to that, LCC 202302 at page 55. There's entries in relation to that in the middle of the page, Friday the 5th of November entry. So a phone call from CAMS in relation to this. Could we just go a little bit higher up so that we've got the top as well, please? So the type of contact. I just want the heading line, not cut off. Thank you. So Sharon Barrett's note. Telephone call from Sam Steed. She stated she was concerned about the family as mum had phoned her to let her know that AR was in crisis, displaying aggressive behaviours. Called the police. AR had called them to say they're no longer needed. Sam Steed was informed that AR and Alphonse have both been spoken to and AR was heard to have calmed down. Sam raised her concerns about what was happening in the family home. She stated she feels as though AR's voice is not being heard, displaying the same kind of behaviours and also saying the same thing. Sam stated that she felt that children's social care need to look at the case in respect of a section 47. There's a reference to Miss Barrett's response in relation to that. And if we look, I think, at the top entry, as well, please. Again, can we include the header in relation to the same incident? This is a further phone call, but this time from the father. And we see that Alphonse was asked what happened just before the incident. He explained that AR was in the living room and someone was at the door, and he went to answer the door but forgot to close the living room, and that AR felt he'd been seen. Alphonse stated that AR had got upset and he told him that he was okay and it didn't matter, but AR had got angry about this. Alphonse was able to recognise that this was likely to be the trigger for his anxieties in the unexpected situation. I asked if AR was still calm and I could hear him in the background, and then this. Alphonse put the phone onto speaker. AR stated that his dad was lying again, telling him that people would killing him, that should read kill him, if he displayed these behaviours outside the family home. I explained to AR that this behaviour was not acceptable, that his mum was right to call the police if she felt at risk or if the property was being broken. So when we take those together, those two calls from the 5th, it's again quite concerning, isn't it? Because one of the things that's being reported is AR, on the face of it, perhaps accusing his father of lying and saying that his father had said, if you display these behaviours outside the home, you're going to end up being killed. And CAMS were voicing that they thought it was time for this to be stepped up to level 4. Yes?
Yes.
Moving on in November, there were further incidents in November. So if we could just look at LCC 30975, this is the 22nd of November. It's quite a short note, I think, a bit easier to read as well. So it's the bottom email. Forgive me, I think I said the 22nd, it's the 21st. Just to inform you that Dad contacted CCT today, that's the crisis care team. Dad reported that there have been a further 2 incidents this weekend. All right, remembering that the earlier one was, the first one was on the 5th of November, so this is now 2 more, do you agree? Because it's 2 incidents this weekend just gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, not caused any physical harm, but has exhibited intimidating behaviour, verbal threats, and on 2 occasions poured milk over Dad, and parents didn't feel able to de-escalate and manage the situation. They're saying it's now impacting on family functioning. So I did manage to felt able to de-escalate and manage the situation, but they admit that it is now impacting upon family functioning. Advice and support given, but a request from CAMS crisis team coming in to the CAMS worker for this to be looked at. And again, you would have been aware of the report of this, I think. It came to your team eventually, yes?
Yes.
And then we know that there was a 4th incident in November as well, towards the end of the month. So Lank 4080. And this is the second one that involves the police. We'll just go to the next page. And to the next page, please. Oh, I'm so sorry. It should be LCC. Sorry, Sarah, it's terribly difficult. But it was a Lank reference, not an LCC reference. So Lank, I think I was right the first time for once. Lank 4080. So, police report in relation to this incident: assault without injury, common assault and battery, other criminal damage to a vehicle, vulnerable child. Just have the full screen again. And then turn to page 3, please. The main text. The main text at the bottom, please. So, offender with mental health issues, during argument with victim, the father, over what was cooked for tea, kicked father in the leg, no injury caused, thrown plate of food at a red Ford Fiesta parked outside, this was a rental vehicle, causing the front window screen to crack. Police attended several hours after incident occurred, and AR had calmed down, and the father doesn't support a prosecution. Suspect is already under CAMS. So that was the 30th of November, and again, the records show that that was made known to your team, and that's the 4th incidence of violence that month. Would you agree?
Yes.
With an indication being given by CAMS in relation to the very first one that they thought that it might be time to step up to level 4. Yes?
Yes.
Do you know why that escalating pattern of behaviour in November didn't lead to a step up?
Because obviously Dad was doing the parenting, Triple P parenting course. So we obviously say to parents, you've got to give time to implement the boundaries and strategies to learn. And when a young person has not had them and the parent starts to put that power into place, obviously there can be tensions and there can be repercussions from the young person. Obviously, we'd always say, to contact, if you feel in danger, to contact the police, to have the young person removed out of the property.
One understands that if there's been encouragement to parents to put boundaries in place, the child might push back against that. But this isn't a one-off incident. It's 4 incidences, all involving violence, 2 of them involving the police being called, and the first of them on its own enough to lead the CAMS worker to be making the suggestion of a step up. When you review that now, reflectively, thinking about it, do you think that this was an opportunity that should have been taken to step the case up?
Yes.
Thank you. Did you have much involvement yourself with the targeted youth support that was put in place?
Involvement in sense?
With Mr. Coughlin, did you liaise closely with him?
Yes.
Can I just ask you this in the most general terms? That there came a time in late December, early January, when the next sessions were booked for him for January. And I think the records suggest that there was some concern being raised that there might be a bit of drift in the support that was being offered by that team. Do you have any recollection of that?
No.
In relation to the reviews that were done and the next team around the family meeting, for example, we just have a look at LCC 30130. This is the team around the family meeting on the 7th of December. If we just go to the next page to get the substance. We have the bottom half. Just not going to read it all out because in a sense it's proving a negative, but I'm just going to give you a chance just to scan your eyes through it so you can remind yourself.
What, the whole document?
Just have a quick skim read of it, just so that you can get the feel for the sort of things that were being talked about. I'm not going to ask you about the detail. Just let me know when you've had long enough. Don't worry, I'm not going to ask you about the detail of what's on this page. I just want you to get a feel for the sort of things that were discussed. All right?
Yeah.
And then if we go to the top of page 3, the conclusion, top right, is that the plan is making small steps, however, they're all in the right direction and all positive for AR and the family. Doesn't seem to be any consideration given to everything that had been going on in the month of November, does there?
No.
Can you help us to understand why that was the case?
I think when we had that meeting, obviously there had been improvements made within the family home. We were looking at the specialist school for AR. Obviously, we're starting to engage with the targeted youth support team. Alphonse was obviously to continue with the Triple P programme. So obviously there was engagement from the family at that point.
I'm not going to suggest that there wasn't engagement, and clearly the matters in relation to the schooling are being looked at, but this meeting is only a week after the police had been called and Alphonse R had been physically assaulted by AR, albeit that he didn't want to press charges. Does it now strike you as a weakness that wasn't being explored at this team around the family meeting?
Yes.
And with the agencies present together, and maybe this might have been a discussion that needed to be done without AR being present, but that would have been the opportunity to consider together stepping up to level 4 in view of how difficult things had been in November, wouldn't it?
Yes.
But we don't see any discussion of that taking place at all.
No.
Thank you.
May I just have a break, please? Is that okay? I just feel a bit sick.
Well, let's take a break now. I was going to go on for 10 minutes, but if you're struggling, let's take a break now, and that might help me to shorten my questions that remain.
We'll sit again at past. Have a seat. You feeling better? Yes, Miss.
Thanks, sir. Ms. Liz, partly because I think you're beginning to struggle and not feel well, I'm going to pick up some of the things that I would have asked you with Miss Barrett as your supervisor, all right? There's a few more questions that I do want to ask about because they involve meetings that you were at or emails that you sent, all right? There's a great temptation when we get to this stage for you to agree with me to get it to finish quicker, all right? Please have the courage, if you don't agree with what I'm suggesting, to say so, because the chair still needs to understand the best evidence that you can give. Do you follow?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much. I just want to ask you about the start of the following year and the meetings that happened for this reason. Could we have a look at Lank 30137? And just while that's being brought up, this is the team around the family meeting for the 12th of January, all right? I'm so sorry, I've done it now. LCC it should be. Forgive me, that's totally my fault. LCC 30137. I'm so sorry. All right, so just get your bearings on this. So this is the note of the TAF meeting outcomes. And the point that I want your help with is if we just go to page 3, we can see that at the top of the page, can we have the top of the page highlighted, please? The top paragraph and a bit. There's a review of the targeted youth support sessions. AR stated that Carl, that's Carl Cloughlin, has been to see him, went out, doesn't feel they've done anything. And they'll complete 6 direct work sessions around supporting AR out in the community. AR saying that Carl is going to take him out for a drink somewhere next time. Father stated that he feels these sessions should be longer and Carl should be taking him to Southport. However, Sharon Barrett reminded Alphonse that these sessions would have to go at AR's pace as they're not likely to work, and Alphonse stated that he understood that. Do you see that there?
Yeah.
And if we can just go to the full page again. Thank you. There's also a reference here. Forgive me, I can't for the moment, but I'll just give you the essence of it. there's an indication here that once once those sessions had finished, the case effectively was going to come to an end because the support would have been given. Do you follow?
Yeah.
And if we look in the minutes for the 10th of February for the next one, which is LCC 30144, and if we go to page 2, please. Could we just have the main text highlighted? Under summary of progress, the early help plan is progressing, positive that AR is starting to show an interest in community-based activities. It's now, in my professional opinion, that parents need to continue with supporting and encouraging AR in attending community-based activities, as this will help build up his confidence and self-esteem. It will also helpfully start to build up positive relationships. At the next TAF meeting, the case will close to CFW as all needs would have been met and a decision made as to who would be lead professional in moving forward under level 2 service. All right? And without going through subsequent meetings and the closure records in detail that we can take Ms. Barrett to, we can see that this early decision that's referred to in the January meeting and is now firmer in the February meeting is maintained in March when it's actually closed, even though in March there was a plan that AR was going to move to a new school, Pressfield, and father was saying, we've got to transfer to a new school coming up, shouldn't this remain open? Now, against all of the background that I took you to earlier on, including those concerns about views about the Taliban earlier and then the escalation of the problems in November, do you think that the move to close this support happened too quickly?
Yes.
And again, you must say if you disagree, but was that because at the time there was a sense that the service should still be time limited and that there comes a time when you should start to work towards actively closing it because of the number of cases and wanting to keep support to a time-limited period?
Yes, because we were a time-limited service at the time. We were time-limited at the time.
In fact, if you were looking at it just from what the complexity and needs were, would this be right? You would have wanted to keep it open for longer, certainly to cover the transfer to the new school.
We wouldn't normally stay involved just for the transfer of going to school. It's not a service that it was felt at the time that obviously things had improved. It was down to parents to implement what they've learned. It was obviously still an education, and obviously around his mental health and CAMS were involved. It was felt it could be managed at level 2 through the education healthcare plan and education.
Certainly, just the simple fact that there's a change of school wouldn't be enough. But here, by this time, AR isn't attending the Acorn School at all. He's withdrawn from that. And so it's going to be a move from a pupil referral unit to a school that specialises in pupils who have an autism spectrum disorder diagnosis. So that's a big step from no schooling, effectively, to a new school that is no longer a referral unit, but is a special provision school. Against the background of earlier using a knife or taking knives to school, in those circumstances, you would want to keep it open to support the transition to the new school, don't you think?
Yes.
Thank you. And then I think the only other matter is it moved to closure on the 14th of March, and 3 days later there was the incident, do you remember, where AR went missing and was found on the bus?
I was aware that he went missing.
Yeah.
Wasn't aware that it was on the bus.
Thank you. So in relation to that, could we look first at LCC 30966? This is an email that you sent at 2:18. I'm aware that AR has gone missing, as father has contacted the office this morning. AR has acted appropriately by, father has acted appropriately, Alphonse has acted appropriately by contacting the police, and that is the only advice we could give. So it looks like you had a telephone call in that he'd gone missing. Do you agree?
Yes.
In relation to the whole event on the 17th of March and in the days that followed, did you at any time understand that AR hadn't just gone missing, he had also been found with a knife on him on the bus where he was found?
No.
We also know from the police, and there's a report made at the time that reflects this, that the police were told of AR mentioning something about poison. Either he'd had thoughts of using poison or he tried to make poison. Whichever of those it was, did you hear anything about that?
No.
So at this stage, in relation to this email, you've had a call earlier in the day indicating that AR was missing, and the advice has been to contact the police. What you go on to say is this: there was a high chance following the meeting last week that this may happen. The meeting last week, is that in reference to the closure?
Yeah.
Yeah. As Alphonse made it clear that he didn't want the support to cease from CFW on the basis or on the fact that AR may not attend Pressfield and the anxieties around the transition. And then you said this, and this is going to Cam's copy to your supervisor. As agreed in the meeting by all professionals, there was no outstanding work from CFW Level 3 and for the family to be supported via health and social health and school on the EHCP. The case was closed to CFW after the meeting. Moving forward, I'm unsure of what other support can be offered to them other than what is already in place. And as parents need to be positively encouraging AR to attend and to follow any advice from school and strategies learned through the parenting programme. If you feel the needs of the family meets Level 3, however, this one instance currently would not meet threshold as parents acted appropriately calling the police. Mr. Lewis, at this stage, it doesn't look like, at least as it's been reported to you, that AR had even been found yet.
No.
And yet in this email, would you agree you're acting to try to close it down, to say effectively, there's nothing more for our team to do. This isn't a Level 3 case, and if you're going to be suggesting that this one incident means that he should come back to us on Level 3, this one incident currently would not meet the threshold as parents acted appropriately calling the police, yes?
Yes.
But you didn't know the circumstances, did you?
No.
Did you ask any questions subsequently to find out the circumstances?
No, because the case was actually closed to us when this came in.
But what about that sense of professional curiosity? You're really encouraging CAMS to say, this isn't for us anymore, we're closed. But shouldn't you at least have found out what the circumstances were?
We don't, once a case is closed to us, we don't get any further information. It is stopped at the multi-agency safeguarding hub. So they would get that information. We would not get any further information after the closure.
Did you contact the MASH to find out what came in subsequently?
No.
Or ask any further questions?
No.
Why were you so keen for it not to come back as a further level 3 referral?
I think at the time it was obviously due to the thresholds of Lancashire County Council. It wouldn't have gone across just based on that information there alone. So, but obviously what we say to professionals, if they've got any concerns themselves, they can always do a referral back into the service if they feel that it needs further support.
Yeah. But knowing now, and I'm not suggesting you knew at the time, but knowing now that he'd been found with a knife and had referred to poison, it doesn't look completely good that you were so keen to ensure that it didn't come back. Would you agree?
Yeah.
In fairness to you, if you look at LCC 30910, if we could look at page 2, please. The information that did come into you on the 22nd of March, so some days later, when the referral did come back in, on any view was very limited. So just to let you know, a referral has come back in. I know you were the family support worker and can see that this has just closed. I know you've completed work with the family, but just wanted to make you aware. I think it was regarding frustration with Instagram account. Unable to speak to family with regards to support, but I know school are being supportive. And that's coming from an early help worker in the Children's Services Support Hub. Now, plainly there, you're not told anything about AR carrying a knife, and poison isn't mentioned. And the description of it as being regarding frustration with Instagram account, it might be thought is a very poor reflection of what had actually happened. But at this stage, did you ask any further questions?
No.
And if we just go to the previous page, please. Bottom of the page, 1. You say in response to that, thanks for sharing that information. I was on training yesterday. We closed the case as all needs were met. The family have had a lot of support. AR is under CAMS. Issues in AR, the issues at AR and his father's relationship, which is fractious and always will be. Father has completed work on the Triple P parenting program, waiting to attend Riding Rapids course. My professional opinion is father doesn't want to take responsibility for his actions and attitude towards AR and will often antagonize him, which was shown during the last TAF meeting. Father's been given strategies, agreed at the closure that the family do not meet the thresholds for level 3. Also to make you aware, AR has been referred to the transition team. AR is due to start Pressfield Specialist High School after the Easter holidays, which I think will elevate some of the tensions within the home. Again, looking at it now, that seems to be pressing the case for why it shouldn't come back to your team rather than asking any questions about what had actually happened. Would you agree?
Sorry, say that again.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Really what you're doing in this email is emphasising reasons why it shouldn't come back to your team at level 3.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And what it's not doing is asking any questions about what had happened in the incident.
Yes.
And just at the top of the page, that's what you sent back to the early help worker in the hub. And then there's a further email on the 23rd of March saying, thanks, Stella, just found out now. I knew this would happen. Can you help with that? What did you know
I
would
think
happen?
in reference to what I was saying for that is that when we closed it to level 2, Dad at the time was a little apprehensive, but we was advised to put the parenting strategies in place, and it was, it's not uncommon that once we've closed, sometimes they may come back in again. But as I say, we didn't have the evidence at that time to do anything with.
Yeah. But would you agree that perhaps the way you were seeing this was Dad didn't want this closed, and he's making a report because he was never really happy about it being closed, but we have done all we can?
Yes.
And would you accept that when the incident, you didn't know this at the time, but when the incident was as serious as a knife being carried in public, and he'd said he wanted to stab someone, for the team as a whole, Lancashire Council, this response was very poor.
Who is sorry?
This response was very poor.
Yes.
Those are all the questions I have. I'm just looking to my left. I know that advocates will bear in mind. No.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
You're now free to go.
Thank you.
So Mr. Coughlin is our next witness. We'll go straight on if we may.
If you could remain standing and take the oath, please.
I do solemnly, sincerely and truly declare and affirm that the evidence I shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
Thank you very much. Please have a seat. Yes, Mr.
Thank you,
Carson.
sir. Could you give your full name, please?
It's Carl Barry Coughlin.
And could we have LCC 201708, please? Is that your witness statement for the inquiry?
It is, yes.
And it's signed on page 24 on the 18th of August 2025. Are the contents of that statement true to the best of your knowledge and belief?
They are, yes.
You've worked, I think, for Lancashire County Council for some 23 years in various capacities, largely as a youth worker at various levels.
Yeah, that's correct.
You obtained a degree in community and youth studies alongside your work.
Yeah, that's correct.
And between 2017 and January 2021, you worked as a family intensive support worker within child and family wellbeing.
Yes, that's correct.
That's the same role as Miss Lewis, from who we just heard from, was conducting when you were engaged with AR in late 2021 onwards.
Yeah, correct.
From January 2021, you were a professional range youth worker. Can you just help us briefly with what that involves?
Yeah, so a professional range youth worker is someone who holds a national youth work qualification, and their role is apportioned into 3 sections. So where 40% of their time would be spent administering group work activity, 40% would be on the administration tasks, including attending any training and management of staff, and then 20% of their time would be spent supporting young people on a one-to-one basis.
In having moved into that role in January 2021, in April 2024, you were promoted to team leader within a targeted youth support team.
Yeah, that's correct.
And alongside your employment by Lancashire County Council, both now and in 2021, you were an elected borough councillor for West Lancashire.
Yeah, that's correct.
Tell us a little about targeted youth support, particularly the one-to-one work. Who is it for?
So, at the time of my involvement with AR, Targeted Youth Support's one-to-one work was established to be a 6 to 12 week intervention of support with the young person at the centre of that support, where although somebody else or another agency may have identified the need for targeted youth support involvement, the young person would be at the centre of developing the plan of work.
The idea then would be that over that 6 to 12 week period, you would build a relationship with that young person.
That's correct, yeah.
You would help them on issues with which they were struggling, such as social isolation, anxiety, and so on.
Yeah, correct.
Does that then link into the group work that you also mentioned? For example, you might make use of some of the youth groups to help with those issues.
Yeah, so within the service structure at the time of the involvement with AR, the literature was clear that our involvement was for 6 to 12 week interventions on a one-to-one basis. Any need beyond that would be through integration into our group work programs.
Thank you. Turning then to AR's case, could we have LCC 30780? This is the initial request for TYS involvement from Ms Barrett in family intensive support on 14th of October. If you go to the next page. This is sent to Deb Cardwell. I think that was your team leader at the time.
Yeah, my direct manager, yes.
Do you know if you ever saw this email?
Not to my knowledge, no.
We'll take it quickly then. There's a reference to, given AR's interests and vast knowledge of politics, Carl would be a great fit for the family if he has space available. So you have been handpicked, if I can put it that way, as a good choice for this particular child.
Yeah, that is correct, yeah.
What the email also flags is, although the step down did not identify this, there are some concerns about how extreme some of AR's views are and the risk that this could pose, so we may also need to refer to prevent. We'll hear, we've heard a little about this, and we'll hear more from Ms Barrett, but the likely context of that is a home visit that Ms Barrett and Ms Lewis carried out on the 4th of October, where AR expressed concerns about MI5 and MI6 accessing his social care records and was vocal on politics, on the US government and on the Taliban. Did you know about any of that?
I did not, no.
That was then on 14th of October. If we can look to the top of the first page, can see 27th of October, Ms Cardwell contacts Ms Heaton, who I think is Ms Barrett's manager. Hi Della, just to update, case discussion this afternoon allocated to Carl. So there's been a slight delay from the initial request to it being allocated to you. Could we have LCC 202302, page 50, and just over onto page 51, please? If we could have the entry at the bottom, 27th of October. Yes. If that could be made as large as possible, again, excluding the left-hand column, 27th, down to where it says CFW have attended. Thank you. This there appears to be the case management note from Ms Cardwell, so your manager, at the start of your input. Again, would you have seen this at the time?
No, not to my knowledge.
You've got access to these notes, which are the early help module of Liquid Logic, don't you?
I do, yeah.
And as well as, obviously, the notes of this ongoing episode, that would also contain the notes of previous episodes, as well as various documents attached to it, like child and family assessments, TAF minutes, early help assessments, and so on.
Yes.
It wasn't your practice, when coming into a new case, to review any of those records. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Could you explain to us in your own words why not?
Yeah, so the youth-work relationship is a relationship that's built on mutual trust. Going into developing the youth-work relationship with an individual with a set of preconceptions can damage the development of that relationship. So actually, you know, a young person feeling that somebody's gone in with a bank of foreformed opinions would likely put up barriers. So youth work is a voluntary relationship with young people, and as such, going in and building that relationship as naturally as possible with that individual is the right approach.
While going in with without a bank of preconceptions might assist in building rapport and trust, it can also assist a young person who wants to conceal things from you, can't it?
Yeah, it could do, yes.
And you are not going to have as full a picture as you would otherwise be able to have had you familiarised yourself with the previous contacts between AR and the various departments of social services within Lancashire County Council. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's fair, yeah.
In this case, some of the information you might have obtained from those notes would have included, and this is not exhaustive, AR's significant history with knives and violence, including criminal conviction for an ABH on a school pupil. It would have included expressions of his intent to use a knife to kill, his lack of remorse after the assault for which he was convicted. It would have included indications that what he said about his forensic history might not be reliable, that his family might downplay or minimise his behaviour, and it would have included concerns about his previous internet usage, searching for school shootings and asking about pictures of beheadings. I've taken those quickly, but even in outline, those were important factors for you to be aware of, weren't they?
Yeah, I agree.
They would have helped inform your assessment of AR, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
And even if you were not necessarily wholly open with him about how much you knew, it was frankly somewhat naive to go in with nothing, but here is a new child for you to do some work with.
I could agree in hindsight, yes.
Not just in hindsight, Mr. Coghlan, but even at the time, that was inevitably going to make your job more difficult and limit what you knew and therefore the information that you could draw on when it came to assessing AR.
Yeah, you've mentioned the word assessing. An assessment was undertaken by someone separately. I was asked to complete a piece of work with an individual for a specific purpose, and that was what I undertook to do.
I don't use the word assessment in a formal sense, okay, Mr. Coghlan, but in any engagement, for example, if you identify something that suggests there is a risk of harm to others, you would have obligations to pass that on and to act on it, wouldn't you?
Yes.
And that involves carrying out some form of small a assessment of the information you're receiving or what you are observing.
Yeah.
At the start of your engagement with AR, you undertook a joint home visit with Ms Barrett on the 3rd of November 2021. That was 2 days after Ms Lewis had completed her early help assessment. Would you have seen that?
No.
We won't go to it then. We've looked at it already this afternoon. So that's LCC 30321. But again, had you looked at that, it would have alerted you to a history of weapons and violence, to the fact that there had been an earlier prevent referral, to the parents and to AR's brother being scared or nervous of AR because of his behaviour, and to family intensive support's current concerns about potential extremist or extreme thinking. Not just historic material, but current concerns in all of those areas that you had no knowledge of in going into your engagements with AR.
That's correct.
If we could go to page 53 of the document we have up now. We have two notes of this meeting here, one from you and one from Miss Barrett. Fair to observe that you wouldn't have seen Miss Barrett's note until very recently, because it is one of the entries that has only very recently been disclosed. Again, doing my best to summarise these rather than go through line by line. For your part, the meeting went relatively smoothly in that you were introduced to AR, you explained the service that you offered to him, and you had what Ms Barrett describes as a chat about politics. AR was seen to be engaged in the conversation. You say Ms Barrett had prompted politics as a get-to-know-you item. You made clear you had to remain politically neutral and couldn't influence young people's political views. Two sides, perhaps, of the same coin there.
Yeah.
There's then, I think, a discussion of the practical arrangements for your sessions, and the plan was that AR would be dropped off at the Zone, which I understand is a youth centre in Skelmersdale, despite it being some way away from his address, after his school commitments.
Yeah, that's correct.
You've told us this was a 6 to 12 week block of work. Was that the plan then for your engagement with AR?
It was, yeah.
Was that for any specific kind of work, or was this a standard package?
The request for my involvement was to support AR with social anxiety and to try and support AR in accessing situations that would develop sort of.
Could we have a look at LCC 30247, please? There's a child and family assessment completed by Children's Social Care in September 2021. If we could look to page 3. And the third paragraph from the bottom, there's input from AR's school, Acorns. Maggie is Maggie Allwood, his dedicated teacher there. Forgive me. Sorry, can we get that? 247. Sorry, the next paragraph down, please. Thank you. Second paragraph from the bottom, that's my fault. Sorry, 247, page 3. Yes, there we go, thank you. Maggie recommended that AR would benefit from some social support outside of school. She advised that he would require a very skilled, trusted professional to slowly build a, probably rapport, with AR at home for approximately 3 to 6 months, as the main barrier for AR is distrust. Maggie felt it would take approximately 12 months for AR to be ready to access social activities and would need a graded approach. First of all, can we take it you wouldn't have been aware of the contents of this assessment, given the approach you took to informing yourself about the case?
Yeah, that's correct.
It's significant that AR's dedicated teacher at school has expressed the view that this really is a much more than 6 to 12 week project. It's 3 to 6 months even at home, and then 12 months to try and introduce them to social activities.
Yeah, okay.
That would be rather more than the 6 to 12 weeks that you were capable of offering.
Yeah, agreed.
In the light of that view, from just a couple of months prior to your involvement, just over a month prior to your involvement, do you think your service was suitable for AR?
I think our service had a part to play, but maybe not the entire part.
Was there a service that would be able to involve a skilled and trusted professional to build rapport at home for 3 to 6 months, and then over a period of perhaps up to 12 months before we introduce them to social activities?
Not that I could name.
Going back then to the meeting, I think you stepped away having set the practical arrangements for the meeting because AR asked you to. Ms Barrett's note indicates the rest of the meeting was quite a turbulent one. Disagreements between AR and his parents about whether they could speak to her in private, AR's behaviour appearing to escalate and him becoming angry, ultimately AR making allegations of violence against his father. Were you ever made aware of the fact that that was how the meeting had developed after you left?
I was not.
Could we look again at your note of the meeting, LCC 202302, page 53? And could we look at the analysis of information towards the bottom of that entry at the top of the page? That could be expanded. Thank you. AR has a voice and knows his mind. He's made an informed decision to meet with me and has made his thoughts about how and where this where this work should occur known. However, at this time, if this is disguised compliance to get people to stop talking at him is unclear and will only become clear where the opportunity to meet one-to-one is undertaken and we're able to visit his hopes and expectations of the session independently. You're alive here, clearly, to the possibility of disguised compliance. In other words, somebody telling you what they think you want to hear.
Yeah, that's correct.
Was that a general concern, or was it a specific one based on your interaction with AR?
It would have been a general concern. At the time of the involvement, the service language focused a lot around the risk-sensible model. And within that, one of the key focuses and features of that was around disguised compliance.
Had you been aware from AR's case history that there had been a previous pattern of saying one thing to one professional and something different to another, that would have put you even more on alert around the issue of disguised compliance, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I could agree with that, yeah.
Your first substantive session with AR then took place on the 8th of November. Before that occurred, on the 5th of November, there was an incident where police were called by AR's mother, who also notified CAMS, and AR's father notified Child and Family Wellbeing, and there was a police safeguarding referral to the MASH. The report was that AR was throwing things around the home and acting aggressively, seemingly as a result of a stranger coming to the door. I think it's right, you were never made aware of this having occurred.
No.
That is so, even though Ms Barrett travelled with AR from his school to the zone on the 8th of November, so there would have been an opportunity at the point she arrived there for her to share that information with you.
Yeah, that's correct.
And again, that would have been useful information to know.
Potentially, yeah.
Paragraph 31 of your witness statement, on page 6, you describe the first meeting with AR I think this is largely taken from your contemporaneous records, isn't it?
Yes, that's correct.
Broadly, AR engaged well.
Yeah.
In particular, he told you that he had previously been expelled from school because he had taken a knife to school.
Yeah, that's correct.
The way that is phrased, and again this comes from your contemporaneous note, suggests that you had the impression this was a single occasion that a knife had been taken to school. Is that fair?
Yes, that's correct.
In fact, it was 10 occasions that he'd admitted taking a knife into the Range High School, and that before he was excluded. You weren't, again, you had no, you were not aware of the number of occasions that had happened.
No, that's correct.
Because AR had concealed it from you.
Yeah.
As I say, we know it was the Range School that we're dealing with here. He said that he had taken a knife into school due to bullying that had progressively worsened despite him telling teachers since year 7. We've heard evidence from the Range School that that's, at the very least, a highly one-sided view of events, potentially even an untruthful view of events. You simply had no basis to judge that against, did you?
No.
He also said he would not take a knife again. He hadn't told you about, and you didn't know about, the occasion he did exactly that in December 2019, 2 months after being excluded, when he took a knife into school, into the Range School, on the same in his backpack, on the same occasion as he used a hockey stick to assault another pupil there.
No.
Do you think when he said that he wouldn't take a knife again, he may simply have been telling you what he thought you wanted to hear?
Yes.
5 days earlier, you'd recorded the need to be alert to disguised compliance. Did you consider that here?
No, I didn't.
Ought you to have done?
I think potentially either in my statement or in the recording, there is reference to that there had been a period of intervention that had been put in place that may have addressed the concern of carrying an offensive weapon and also provided the education. And as such, that aligned with the statement and the open and transparent nature in which it was disclosed made me feel that AR was being factually.
I think the next meeting then, if we could look to paragraph 32, the next meeting was then on the 18th of November. In fact, if we go over the page, it's paragraph 33 gives us the note. Again, broadly, AR appeared to engage relatively well with you on that occasion.
Yes.
So by this point, fair to say that you felt you'd had 2 relatively successful sessions.
Yep.
There was, I think, and we probably don't need to bring it up, but some liaison between you and CAMS around this time to try to coordinate the work that you and they were doing. Sir LCC 30754.
Thank you.
You weren't told that on the 21st of November, CAMS had made Family Intensive Support aware of 2 incidents the previous weekend where AR had engaged in intimidating behaviour and twice poured milk over his father.
That's correct.
As a result of the meeting on 18th of November and what was shared by AR with you there, I think you'd engaged with Miss Lewis to try to facilitate AR attending the next TAF meeting.
Yes, that's correct.
That was due then to be your next session, so you were going to go with AR to that meeting. I think that was due to take place on the 24th of November, but ultimately that meeting was cancelled.
Yes, that's correct.
And I think therefore your session with AR didn't take place, and you set out in your statement that you had a little difficulty with your diary working out whether that was the case. We know from other evidence that TAF meeting was cancelled.
Yeah.
Around this time, there were a number of instances, is this fair, of AR's father trying to rearrange sessions with you at short notice or to make contact with you for matters that were not your remit, like medication reviews.
Yes, that's correct.
I'm going to look at just one of the examples of that because there's quite a lot of material on it. You've set it out in your statement. Yeah. If we could look at LCC 202302 and page 68. And the top entry, please, Sarah. We can see there that Ms. Allred from Acorns sends an email on the 26th of November to you with details of what had happened the day before. Mrs. Allred received a text from Dad, from Alphonse, good morning, AR is coming into school, please get Carl to see him today. Clearly not going to be possible for you simply to rearrange your diary or your other commitments around short notice. AR is coming into school today, Carl can therefore see him today type requests.
Yeah, that's correct.
And I think you engaged in some work both through the school but also through Miss Lewis to try and set some boundaries with the family about that.
Yeah.
If we look, if we can, at the bottom line that we can see there, so if we go back to where we were, page 68. And the analysis of information, Dad appears to have unrealistic expectations of the role of the targeted youth support worker. That, I think, is a note by you.
Yeah, that's correct.
In general terms, over the course of your engagement with AR, what was your view of his father's attitude towards the service that you were providing?
I think when reviewing one of the TAF notes, there is a reference that the father felt that the work was having a positive impact and would like it to continue. So I would assume that that would have been Dad's perception throughout the involvement.
If we can go to your statement briefly, LCC 201708 and page 20. Bottom of page 20, top of page 21. You say you were mindful of preserving the independence of my relationship with AR. I think because AR's father was quite involved with the other services which AR was being supported by, such as CAMS, Acorn, CFW, AR's father expected the same with me. However, my work focused solely on AR and trying to engage him. Again, did you think that AR's father was trying to intervene in that independence of your relationship?
Yes, I think there is a distinct reason that targeted youth support were asked to be involved, and that was for some independent support for the young person whilst the lead professional undertook the coordinatory role in any direct work with a parent, and trying to maintain that separation was important.
Can we look at LCC 30996? And this is 1st of December. While that's coming up, again, we know from other evidence about an incident when police were called on 30th of November because AR had assaulted his father and damaged a car. Again, you were never made aware of that.
Yeah, that's correct.
1st of December then, you send apologies for the TAF meeting on Tuesday the 7th of December. It's not a working day for you. You say, please can we schedule a discussion prior to this meeting, as I feel it is important to manage the increasing expectations from Dad. And then Ms Lewis replies in the top email, I'm aware of Dad's expectations of all services being unrealistic. This has been addressed and will be reiterated in the meeting. Again, does that give a flavour of your views of how Dad was interacting with you as the targeted support worker for AR?
Yes, I feel it does.
Looking at the rest of Ms Lewis' email, please could you provide me with a written report that can be attached to the TAF notes of what work has been completed so far and the plan for moving forward. Unfortunately, I won't have time to have a discussion with you due to my own working commitments. Is that a slightly frosty exchange between two professionals?
I mean, I can see how that could be seen to be the case. I think sometimes the written presentation does not capture the underlying rapport and relationship that people have.
Had you worked with Ms Lewis on other cases?
Not that I can recall having worked with on other cases, but we're part of the same service. We would have interacted both in professional and personal interactions on numerous occasions.
You were asked for a written report for the TAF. I think you accept you didn't ultimately produce one.
Yeah.
Being fair, you have put extensive notes onto the case notes system from each of your engagements with AR, but I think you accept you ought to have provided a report, a consolidated report for the TAF.
Yeah.
Would you have seen the notes from the TAF?
To my recollection, I never saw the notes for the TAF meeting.
Again, then, I won't bring them up, but LCC 30130, on page 2, AR's view at that TAF was that the sessions with you were fine, although nothing's really happened. Did that reflect your view of these sessions at this point?
It did not, no.
I think there was then due to be a session with AR on the 2nd of December, but when you arrived at school, AR hadn't attended.
Yeah, correct.
That, I think, is the first session that had been cancelled because of AR not attending school, but given the discussion over the past week or so as regards boundaries, that was no doubt quite frustrating.
I can't recall now any emotional feelings that I may have had at that time.
Could we look at LCC 202302, page 71, and the bottom entry, please? Sorry, I think that's the entry above. Yes, penultimate entry, in the middle of the page. Thank you. So again, your note, attended school after attempting to call, not able to make contact. Upon arrival, I discovered that AR was not in school today, therefore appointment did not proceed. And you then put in some analysis. AR was not available for appointment, therefore the action plan has not been able to be progressed. In light of the repeated absences that are attributed to anxiety, I do have some concern that it may not be the right time for AR to be pushing himself to address all of his issues at once, and this needs exploring with him. Acknowledging that you do put a note on the case notes about this, was that a concern you ever discussed with any of the other professionals involved in AR's case?
I can't recall.
Given what you now know about AR's volatile behaviour throughout November 2021, Do you think that would have reinforced your view if you'd been aware of that?
I'm not sure.
What about if you had known as well that his dedicated teacher at school thought that months and months of work was required to deal with AR's distrust and social isolation? Would that again have reinforced your view that this might not be the right time for this?
Potentially, yes.
In effect, those would all tend to a conclusion that the multi-agency approach being taken now across family intensive support, targeted youth support, CAMS and education wasn't working. It's too much too soon, and a different approach is needed.
Yeah, with the benefit of hindsight, yeah.
If that's right, this was potentially an opportunity for all of the agencies involved to pause and take stock, reconsider how that support was being offered for AR. But it's an opportunity that doesn't appear to have been taken. Is that right?
It appears so, yeah.
LCC 30777, please. This is the email that you received from Miss Lewis after the TAF on the 7th of December. Second page, please. So we see at the bottom of the page, there's the email to you. Hi, Carl, just to keep you updated. TAF meeting yesterday, which was fairly positive. AR attended, which I know is a massive step forward for him. I was unable to share much about your support that's been offered so far as you didn't send me a report. Covered that. Dad and AR have requested, could your support be arranged for afternoons instead of mornings to try to prevent further sessions being cancelled? If we could scroll up to your reply, please. I recognise this request. Due to having my diary planned till I go on leave for Christmas, will not be able to put this into place until after the Christmas break. I think that's a combination of appointments you had already booked and Christmas leave.
Yeah, that's correct.
And then you make a request for information about location and travel time, and there is ultimately, I think the plan is switched to you picking AR up at the family home rather than at school, to try to break the link between non-attendance at school and therefore missing your sessions.
Yeah, that's correct.
LCC 30705, so 715. We can see you then putting that into effect via Alfonso and saying, I'll be able to meet AR on a Monday, 1 to 2, commencing on the 10th of January for 6 sessions. That's therefore quite a lengthy break in the continuity of your sessions with AR. Is that fair?
I think it's roughly from the request at the TAF meeting to implementation is about a month.
But the last session you'd had with AR was the 18th of November. So in fact, between sessions was going to be nearly 2 months.
Yeah.
That's likely to come with inevitable challenges around maintaining rapport.
Potentially, yeah.
Were you alive to those sorts of challenges?
Yeah.
What was your plan to try to mitigate them?
I think there are some dynamic judgments that have to be made on the day of those appointments, and depending how the flow of the interaction is going, that determines the action taken.
Seemingly as a result of this lengthy gap between sessions, family intensive support became concerned that there was what they called drift in your work with AR. Again, you won't have seen this note, so I don't take you to it, but it's LCC 30405 on page 1. As AR has started to work with the TYS team, however, there has been drift in relation to this action. Do you think that's fair?
I think there were some challenges in implementing the plan, and there was a alteration made to the plan with some clear timelines attached to that. So I think drift is unexplained gaps in the delivery of a plan. The gaps in the delivery were explained, so therefore, no, I wouldn't have personally classed that as drift.
I think you did then resume your sessions with AR on the 10th of January. Again, you've set them all out in your statement, and I'm not going to go through them all one by one. At the January TAF, which you didn't attend, so LCC 30137, again, AR gives his view of the sessions and says that the one the previous day had just been another get-to-know-you session. Again, does that reflect perhaps some of the challenges of a lengthy gap between sessions taking place?
I mean, potentially, yes. I think there's also an argument to be said that sometimes as a individual accessing and receiving support, some of the impact of that support might not be fully understood immediately.
I see. Also at that meeting, there appears to be a decision taken that AR's case will close child and family wellbeing after your 6 sessions, i.e. the 6 from the 10th of January onwards, have finished. This was after session 1 of 6. Was that a decision you were aware of?
Not at the time, I believe.
Do you think it would be appropriate to make that call that at the end of those 6 sessions we're going to step the service away from child and family wellbeing? This is the only thing left.
Yeah, I think if the action plan has been completed and there are no new needs identified that would require any further actions to be added to that plan, then ending the episode at the end of the outstanding task would have been appropriate.
Paragraphs 93 to 94 of your statement, you go through some more of the sessions. Is it fair to say that as you worked through these 6 sessions, his level of engagement started to drop rather? He was reluctant to engage in session 4, and I think he didn't engage at all in session 5. He didn't attend.
Obviously, I don't have that session detail on my screen, but I believe that session 4 may have been the session where AR had come to meet with me immediately following another professional engagement, and therefore may well have felt fatigued by professional involvement on that day. So I think that would be a reasonable explanation why the engagement may have been harder to have. And then the 5th session, unfortunately, I don't have the detail to be able to form an opinion.
As a pattern, though, less engagement in session 4, although he does engage, no engagement in session 5. Is that not a concerning pattern?
I think with the benefit of hindsight, yeah.
One thing that you say in your statement at paragraph 90 on page 15, when dealing with session 4, so AR is reporting positive aspirations for change. However, he is currently managing his parents, and therefore this is resulting in missed education opportunities. What did you mean by him managing his parents?
I mean, I think from having reflected on the evidence available, there is definite reference to things like his routine, staying up late, therefore oversleeping and not attending school. So I think it was around his behaviours not being appropriately challenged.
If we could have LCC 30144 page, please. This is the TAF notes from 10th of February, which he did attend. Page 2, please. In the summary of progress, see, it's positive that AR is starting to show an interest in community-based activities, for example, the youth group. I think if we look up the page, if we zoom out slightly and look up the page, in the parents, carers, thoughts and feelings, and if we could have the box above that as well. His parents both reported that AR enjoys attending the Moles Cop youth group. That, I think, was one of the activities that you'd been carrying out with him, but hadn't attended this week as he wasn't ready. So there, again, there is a degree of engagement starting perhaps to tail off. Is that fair?
Yeah, potentially.
By this point, it's also clear, we can see from the actions just on the bottom of that page, that the transition process to Pressfield is likely to take place at some point. The date for that, I think, was unclear at that stage. Quite likely that's going to be a significant adjustment for AR. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Could we have LCC 30151? Mr. Coughlin, this is the final radar that you conducted with AR on the 21st of February 2022. If we could go to page 2, please, and then if need be, if it could be rotated. Thank you. I'm not going to go through all of it. I just want to pick up one detail from the bottom right-hand corner about My Online World. Rarely use Instagram to look at people I know's stories, don't speak to people at all online, just watch YouTube, would know what to do if something went wrong. Gives a positive picture of his online behaviour. And those who were very quick might have spotted that it was scored as a 6, the top mark on the radar chart on page 1. Is that an accurate summary of what he's told you there about his online activity and behaviour?
Yeah.
We know that by this point AR had downloaded an Al-Qaeda training manual in August, September 2021 and was engaging in purchasing the constituent parts of the biological weapon ricin online. He was quite simply pulling the wool over your eyes here, wasn't he?
It appears so, yes.
If you'd been aware of previous concerns over his internet use and perhaps also the concerns around extremist views in October 2021, do you think you might have pushed back a little on this?
Potentially, yes.
We also know that on the 17th of March, so about 3 weeks later, AR was expressing serious concerns to professionals about his social media usage in the context of believing that if he committed a serious criminal offence, the police would be able to delete his social media accounts. Given that, it can't simply be taken as read that he was just going to lie to you whatever you tried to push back with. Is that fair? He was willing to talk about it in certain circumstances.
Yeah, potentially.
We then have the TAF on the 11th of March, LCC 30153. In your witness statement at page 104, you say you attended this TAF. Do you remember doing that now?
I don't specifically remember attending.
If we could look to page 2, please. I ask because you're marked down as not having attended. Do you think you may have been mistaken when you say in your witness statement you attended the TAF on the 11th of March?
Potentially, yes.
Dealing with it relatively briefly then, at this meeting, the proposal was that because you had done your 6 sessions, the case was to close to CFW, whereas Alfonso was resistant to closure and keen for support to remain in place while AR transitioned to Pressfield. And indeed, the transition to Pressfield had come forward rather in time, so it was going to be taking place in the near future. It appears that at that TAF, forgive me if we could just zoom out slightly. If we could look at the next page. Sorry, LCC 30320, page 2. That's my fault. And if we could have the Friends Relationship and Support box expanded, please. This is the closure report for CFW, produced after that TAF meeting. AR has engaged with targeted youth support and identified a youth group to attend on a weekly basis during term time, however has now stated he no longer wants to attend as finds it boring. Again, continuing the pattern of engagement dropping away.
Yes, so.
And to some extent, Mr Coglan, I have to suggest that the cornerstone of what you thought you had achieved with him, namely introducing him to a youth group that would help with his social isolation, appears simply to have been removed by AR at the earliest opportunity.
Yes, so, yeah.
But before I come to the second period of your involvement with AR, can I just invite your reflections on this relatively sustained period of contact? I think you had 7 one-to-one sessions with AR over a period of just over 3 months. How well do you think you'd got to know him?
At the time, I feel that AR had engaged well and been open with myself.
What was your impression of him as a teenager, youth?
I mean, it's difficult to say in light of the events that have happened since, but at that time, a young person who was struggling with their engagement with their peers and needed to develop their confidence in engaging with their peers, not dissimilar to a number of young people.
You've made very clear in your statement that at no stage in your dealings with him did you identify any concerns in respect of risk he posed to others.
That's correct.
Given what we now know about his internet usage, and I've touched on some of that, and the fact that from January 2022 onwards he was starting to try to stockpile a variety of weapons, I think it's fair to say that you were, frankly, entirely wrong in your assessment of him.
Yeah, I think there's a voluntary nature to the work with limited scope to act without the consent of the individual. Had information been disclosed to me where I felt the individual was a risk to themselves or others, I would have taken the appropriate steps. But as I was not garnished with that information, I acted within the role and remit of my role.
You would perhaps have been in a better position to spot any indicators. I'm not suggesting that there were any, but you would have been in a better position to spot any had you been better informed about the case from the outset. Is that fair?
Yes, however, I would also expect that any significant key points would have been brought to my attention rather than me needing to go and dig through a historic records set.
And it may be that there was an issue as to how the notes are presented and how key information is recorded on them. Would it be fair to observe this, though, that one way in which that information is going to be brought to you is in the context of the TAF meetings? In the course of your engagement between November and March, if it's right you didn't attend the March one, you attended one of those TAF meetings and didn't provide a written report to those that you were not in attendance at.
Yeah.
Again, do you think that that was a sufficient engagement in the multi-agency work around AR by you?
I mean, I recognise that it would have been beneficial to be in attendance at all TAF meetings. There are a number of factors that have to align when somebody is being asked to attend a meeting whilst also undertake the various other activities of their role.
Is that a resourcing question then?
I think it may be more a communication issue.
All right. Can we touch very briefly then on the second period in which you had some involvement with AR? Over a year later, in June 2023, you deal with this in paragraph 108 of your witness statement. Setting the context, the transition to Pressfield that had been on the horizon at the end of your last involvement had in effect failed. AR had not been to school for a considerable period of time. You would of course have come to this with some recollection of your previous work with AR.
That's correct, yeah.
Can we take it that you adopted your usual practice though of not obtaining information from any of the records that may have been available in the meantime?
Yeah, that's correct.
You wouldn't therefore have been aware of the incident on the 17th of March 2022, just after the case last closed, when AR was found with a knife on a bus, told police he had it in order to stab someone, and also made comments about poison.
Yeah, that's correct.
I think you tried to engage with AR on a number of occasions, the plan now being specifically to explore coping skills around anxiety.
Yeah, that's correct.
And on each occasion, AR made it clear he did not want to engage with you. I think on one occasion he went so far as to ask his mother how to say, I don't want it, in her mother tongue.
Yeah, that's correct.
And after 2 failed sessions, you formed the view that really this was not work that you were going to be able to do.
I think I expressed the challenge in engagement, and we agreed to put together a letter that would be sent to AR to put the choice of engagement.
We've got that letter at LCC 30423. I think that's ultimately sent on the 17th of July. There's perhaps a little bit of a delay while it's approved by your manager. But we can see that it effectively says, I haven't been able to reach you directly at the sessions on the 8th of June and the 15th of June, but if you want support, here it's available to you.
Yeah, that's correct.
Never any response to that letter.
That's correct.
You do suggest, in the last substantive paragraph of that, possibly a joint home visit with Sharon Barrett once she returns to work. From your perspective, was that ever taken forward?
No, it wasn't.
You've set out in your statement some overall observations on the case and on improvements since in the targeted youth support team. We're grateful for those and they stand as part of your evidence. One feature though of today's evidence has been the impact of you not having all of the necessary information to properly inform your work. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I'd agree.
And in your statement, you, and indeed at the start of your evidence today, you set out a position really of defending that as an approach, that it was the right thing to do simply to obtain information as and when it comes to you, primarily from the child that you are working with. Would you agree that approach badly let you down in this case?
I think I have to agree with that. However, what I would also point out is that within the content management system that LCC use, there is a mechanism in which any notes that you wish an individual who may not be the lead professional to be made specifically aware of, they can be tagged into that note and that would drop into their home tray, which would then indicate that there was something of significance for them to read.
Okay. Is that a system that is regularly used within LCC, tagging people in notes to draw them to their attention?
To my knowledge, yes.
But it didn't occur at all in this case?
No.
Mr. Coughlin, those are my questions. If you just wait there a moment. Yes, there are some more from my left.
Yes.
Mr. Coughlin, you set out your qualifications in your statement, and I think I'm right in saying you have a degree in Community Youth Studies,
That's correct, yeah.
qualifications from the Institute of Leadership and Management,
That's correct.
and you had regular professional development over the years,
Yeah, that's correct.
and you have worked as a youth worker for a number of years,
Yeah, correct.
including as a professional youth worker,
Correct.
and shortly after your involvement with AR, you became a team leader
Yeah, that's
in
correct.
that work. Yes? Were you trained not to review the notes?
To my knowledge, at the time, and still at this time, there is no policy that says that we should review and undertake an audit of a case activity prior to becoming involved. We had a manager who has since passed, but was very clear regarding not going and looking for things that we didn't have a need to go and look for. So there was a sense, a culture of not going back and doing a deep dive or, an audit of prior involvements.
So the idea came from a professional manager, did you say?
Yeah.
So it wasn't entirely personal to you?
No, I feel that was definitely a message that was delivered across at least the service area of West Lancashire.
So you say this was an idea across the entire service of West Lancashire?
To my knowledge, yeah.
And as team leader, I suppose sometimes your team would ask you for advice, and that's the advice you would give?
No, since the involvement in this episode, practice has changed significantly, and as part of the any sort of request for targeted youth support involvement, I specifically ask a number of questions to make sure that any concerns regarding neglect, prevent, exploitation, or I can't remember what the fourth one is off the top of my head, I do apologise. I asked greater care profile.
Can I just pause you there? Because you became team leader in April 24, which was before the attack. Yes?
That's correct, yeah.
And this inquiry didn't get started till sometime in 2025. And yet your evidence today was, when you were first asked about this, that your view was it was all about building rapport. That's why you didn't look at the notes.
Yeah.
New topic. I think you were aware that AR had a diagnosis of autism. Is that right?
Yes.
You didn't look at the notes, so somebody must have told you that. Is that right?
I can assume so, yes.
Would it have altered your engagement with AR if you had known, in addition, that he had a conduct disorder?
I don't know.
Consider this. If, in addition to a conduct disorder, you had appreciated that he had a fascination with violence, would that have altered your approach?
Potentially.
If, in addition, that he had a lack of empathy? would that have altered your approach?
Again, I don't know.
If, in addition, you were told that he had high intelligence, would that have altered your approach?
Not to my knowledge.
And if all those things together should be regarded as a potentially toxic combination, would that have altered your approach?
I think to be minded that the request for what I was asked to be involved with, and that there were mental health practitioners and other agencies who were involved in providing that support, I would expect that guidance and judgment to have come from some of those other agencies.
But this was information that you really needed to know for your own safety, if nothing else. Isn't that right?
What I can say is that by the time of any direct work with AR, I never felt to be personally at risk.
But you were mistaken about that, weren't you?
I recognise that the acts that AR then went on to perpetrate demonstrate that he was a risk to others. I would still argue that there was never any evidence of risk to myself.
If you'd known all that, you would have frankly had to say to yourself, I'm out of my depth. I need to pass this back up.
Potentially, yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chapman. Thank you, Mr. Coughlin. You're now free to go.
Thank you very much.
So, very mindful of the time and also the fact that we've been going for 90 minutes, there is one more witness today who I'm confident would take around 30 minutes to conclude. But we are very much in your hands as to whether we continue to press on or whether we simply trim our sails for tomorrow.
I think there's quite a full day for tomorrow.
There is, sir.
Yes. Well, then I think what we should do, it's now 5 to 5, is take a 5-minute break now for the stenographer and then sit again at 5 o'clock and see if we can conclude this witness.
I'm grateful, sir.
I'll rise and I'll be back in 5 minutes. Sorry, would you mind standing again for a moment?
I do solemnly, sincerely and truly declare and affirm that the evidence I shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Please have a seat.
Thank you.
Can I ask you to try and keep your voice up a bit more than that, because although there are 2 microphones, otherwise your words will get lost.
Okay.
Thanks. Yes, Mr. Goss.
May it please you, sir. Could you give your full name, please?
Yeah, Amanda Jane Chapman.
And could we have LCC 201857 on screen, please? Is that your witness statement for the inquiry?
It is, yes.
And you have signed that on... in fact, I think we have an unsigned version here on page 9, but that is true to the best of your knowledge and belief.
It is, yes.
From March 2021, you were a missing from home support worker for Lancashire County Council.
Yes.
You had a level 3 NVQ in children and young people and had previously worked in children's homes for 18 years up to deputy manager level.
Yes.
You would therefore have been experienced in dealing with children with a range of needs, including no doubt mental health difficulties,
Yes.
neurodivergence,
Yes.
and involvement in the criminal justice system.
Minimal.
Minimal, thank you. You would, I imagine, be aware that what children say to you cannot always be taken at face value based on that experience.
Absolutely.
When you became a missing from home support worker, you say at paragraph 5 that you received training specific to your role online, had access to the relevant guidance and policies, and you felt that the training was excellent.
Yes.
You knew what your job involved and how to do it.
Yes.
Your job involved conducting return home interviews for
Yes.
children who had returned from being missing.
Yeah.
Was that all it involved, essentially?
No.
What else was part of your role?
Referring, doing analysis and referring.
So you'd conduct the return home interview,
Yeah.
would then do the analysis and any referrals that were necessary.
Yeah.
Thank you. The Missing from Home team that you were part of sat, I think, within the overall Children's Social Care Department in LCC,
Yes.
but it was a separate and standalone team. We've heard, for example, about the Duty and Assessment team or the Child Protection teams. It was separate from those.
Yes.
How many people were there in the team?
There should have been about 8, but most of the time 4, 5.
In terms of caseload, you tell us in paragraphs 13 to 15 that you were handling something like 8 return home interviews a day.
Yeah.
That, particularly where they're face-to-face interviews, would also involve, of course, travelling across a wide area.
Yes.
You tell us that you think a realistic burden would have been 2 to 3
Yes.
a day. Do you think your team was adequately resourced to let you carry out a realistic number of RHIs a day?
Not at all. No.
You tell us that you would receive notifications about missing children from the police. Would they come direct from the police or would they come from the MASH?
They'd come to myself from my manager,
Do you know where she got them from?
direct from the police.
Direct from the police, thank you. And referrals, when they came in, were graded red, amber or green. Can you help us at all on what the different levels were? They're clearly levels of priority or risk or significance, but what did they equate to?
Yeah, red rag rated was that to conduct a face-to-face interview.
Do you know why a case would be red rag rated?
Risk, all down to risk.
All right. You tell us that the majority were graded red.
Yeah.
It's perhaps not the most helpful grading system if everything gets the most serious rating.
No.
And I think where you have a red rag rated case, you would make arrangements to conduct a face-to-face return home interview within 72 hours.
Yes.
What sort of issues would you be looking to explore in that interview?
Whatever comes through on the allocation. It could be a number of things, but you just explore what's on the allocation.
I think it's right that there was a statutory obligation to conduct these interviews, but the thinking behind it is that where a child has gone missing, there is something that needs to be explored, some risk or need
Yeah.
that needs to be identified and addressed. Is
Yeah.
that fair?
It is, yeah.
How long would these interviews typically take?
They could take 10 minutes, they could take an hour, 2 hours.
Do you think that when you conducted these interviews, you typically had the time, given the number you were trying to get through, or the information, given that some of these might be very complicated cases with long histories, to really explore the issues underlying why someone had gone missing?
No, not at all.
Could you tell us about your process for taking notes of these interviews?
Some people would take their laptop and type as they went along. I felt to make the young people more comfortable, I just used to take bullet points and notes and then type up.
And I think those notes would then be translated into a return home proforma, and we'll look at an example later.
Yeah.
What would you do with that proforma once you had typed your notes up?
If it was a young person that was an unopened case and I felt that they needed support, I would then send over to my manager I would do a referral, but also my manager would know about me doing a referral. If they are an opened case and they have a social worker, then I would, with the form, I would then send it to police and health.
Would you also send it to the social worker for the...
Not all the
case?
time. You know, sometimes if there was something that I needed to flag up or that I felt that the social worker needed to know information, yes.
Can we come then to March 2022? Ms Chapman, I don't want to pry, but I think in early 2022 you were in the middle of a period of quite significant personal challenge.
Yeah.
Can we take it that you think this was affecting your work in March 2022?
Yeah.
I want to see if we can identify what material you would have received about AR's case when it was allocated to you. Could we have LCC 30157, please? We know, Ms Chapman, from other evidence before the inquiry, that after AR went missing and was found on a bus by police, a PC Rhodes put a police safeguarding referral into the council. And we can see here in the bottom third of the page, this is PC Rhodes, or the record of how PC Rhodes' referral was handled. Do you see that?
Yeah.
And if we can look to page 5, and the actions taken, what we see here is that on the 21st of March, there were a number of calls to AR's mother, which did not receive a response. And then on the next page, thank you, on the next page, in the green text, we have a decision to close the case on the 22nd of March. Says it's not been possible to make contact with mother to discuss support. As we'll come to, that doesn't tally with your experience because you in fact met AR's mother when you conducted a return home interview.
Yes.
This is the referral, Ms Chapman. You were asked in your Rule 9 request about any knowledge of AR having discussed poison, and you say in your witness statement that was nothing. You have no recollection of being aware of that, and you think it was something that would have stuck in your mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is the referral that makes reference to that. Does it follow then that you don't think that you were ever aware of the contents of this?
No. Whatever came through to me on the referral.
Sorry, go on.
Sorry, I didn't see, to the best of my knowledge, I didn't see anything about making poison because that would have stood out.
And that tallies, doesn't it, with what we see here of the case being closed. In fact, 11/11 on the 22nd of March would have been just about the same time as you were conducting the return home interview.
Yeah.
Thank you. We can put that to one side then. Could we have Lank 4010, please? Because also on the 17th of March, PC Fairclough, when AR had first been reported missing, made a missing from home notification. Was this the sort of thing that you received?
No.
Can I just invite attention, if we can go to page 2 of this, to date time found, 17th of March 2022, 11:14. We know in fact that that's wrong. That was the approximate time he was reported missing. He was found by the police at around 3 p.m. But can you just hold that time for a moment?
Yeah.
Keep a mental finger in it. Can we try Lank 4083, please? This is another document associated with PC Fairclough's missing from home notification. Does this look like the sort of document you might have received?
No.
Lank 4091. Again, is this the sort of thing you might have received?
No.
Lank 4082. This is essentially the same information as on the one that I asked you to keep a mental note in. Again, does this look like the sort of thing that you might have received?
No.
All right. What you think you knew was AR had gone missing and been found, and you recall that he'd been found on a bus with a knife.
Yes.
It wasn't normal practice for you to review records on liquid logic about a child before conducting a return home interview, and you didn't do so in this case?
I didn't do so in this case. Ideally, it would be good to have had the time to do.
And I think in similar vein, it wasn't normal practice for you to contact other teams who might have had prior contact with a child, either open to them at that time or very recently open to them.
No.
And you didn't do so in this case?
No.
Would it be helpful if, well, first question, in hindsight, do you think this was an effective system for identifying risks that might emerge from a missing child episode?
No, not at all.
Would it be helpful if the system of notes had a way of rapidly identifying key information about a child, warning markers, recent history, and so on?
Yeah.
You very candidly set out from paragraph 38 of your witness statement what you didn't know. You didn't know he'd been excluded from mainstream schooling in October 2019 for taking a knife to school. Didn't know about an assault on another pupil in December 2019 with a hockey stick and while in possession of a knife, or that he'd been convicted for that. You didn't know about 3 previous prevent referrals. We've covered poison, which you don't recall being aware of and think you would have recalled. And you can't say if you knew that he'd been closed to child and family well-being just 3 days earlier.
Yeah, no.
It would have been helpful for you to have known about all of those things, some of which were extremely recent before you met AR, wouldn't it?
It would, and I certainly look back and think there's no way I'd put myself at risk doing a return home interview, lone working. I would have called a colleague.
And I don't say this to be critical of you, Ms. Chapman. You were put in a position, in an extraordinarily poor position, to conduct an effective return home interview, weren't you?
Yeah.
The case was allocated to you by your line manager, Ms. Lacey, on the 17th of March. And I think on the Monday, the 21st of March, weekend obviously intervening,
Yes.
you tried to get hold of AR's parents to arrange a face-to-face interview, initially unsuccessful, but able then to book it for 10 o'clock the next day.
Yes.
And you set out your recollection of AR's behaviour and demeanour in his interview at paragraphs 42 and 43. Could we have that up on screen? 185 LCC 201857 at page 7. While that's coming up, do you have your own recall of this interview, or are you wholly dependent on the notes that you took at the time?
I do recall, yes, going in and feeling that he wouldn't speak. So, as I remember, I'd said to him, would it help? It seemed to be, would it help if I could speak to him alone? And I think he said he'd rather that, and then I think that's when Mum went upstairs.
All right. Can we have a look then at your notes? That may help a little. This is the return home interview performer, LCC 30159. can we first of all look at the top half of that page? There's some basic details, name, address, date of birth, and so on. Do you recall I asked you to put a mental note in that time returned 11:14? Do you see we see the same time here on this return home interview performer? Do you think that might make it more likely that, at the very least, the information from that document we looked at is what you would have had available to you prior to this interview?
Yeah.
If we could look then to page 2, this is your typing up of the handwritten notes you would have made at the time. We don't have the handwritten notes. You'd have done it shortly after the interview?
It would have depended on my workload.
Okay. The text in bold, is that intended to be direct quotes?
Yes.
When I arrived, Mum let me in and AR was sitting in the lounge. I asked what had happened, why he'd been reported missing. AR would not talk, and a while later said to me, if she, Mum, leaves the room, I will talk. Your recollection is that you suggested, shall we talk alone? It may be that that came from AR.
Yes, possibly, yeah.
Was that quite common in these sorts of situations, that a child doesn't want to talk in front of their parents?
Yes.
And then in terms of why he left, in direct text or direct quotes, you say, I just went. Basically, my psychologist and me were talking and I'd argued with my mum. You ask what we were arguing about. Can't remember, but my social media accounts, I don't have them, but I argued the police could look at them. Why would the police look at them? They can if you've done something. Have you done something? No, but they could look if I had. I argued about this to my mum. What made you go? I just got angry. Did this make any sense to you?
No.
Was it something worth further exploration about the internet and social media usage here?
Yes.
Or indeed about his concern that there might be something the police would be interested in on his social media accounts?
A lot of the young people you're going out to see when they've been missing from home, this wouldn't be unusual.
One thing that might be unusual about it, and tell me if this is wrong, is that even on its own terms it makes no sense, because he is saying, I don't have accounts, the police could look at them if I'd done something wrong, but I haven't done anything wrong, so they can't look at the accounts that I don't have. Do you follow?
Yes.
It's a very confused account that he's given.
Yeah.
Was that something that perhaps should have been probed a little further to try to understand?
Absolutely.
You asked him directly, did you have anything on you that could have been a weapon? Would that have been informed by your knowledge that he'd been found with a knife on the bus?
Yes.
He says, no. That was therefore in direct contradiction to information that you knew to be true.
Yes.
It was a quite obvious lie.
Yes.
And one that demanded further exploration, wasn't it?
Absolutely.
You accepted it at face value, and I think you accept that that really wasn't good enough.
Yes.
The remainder of your questions get quite limited answers. What did you do when you left? I walked around, tried to get on the bus, didn't have money, police called, I came home. Where were you going to go on the bus? I don't know, anywhere. Why? Just wanted to. And then when asked what happened while you were missing, just walked around here. No, I didn't see anybody. And then likewise at the bottom of the page, who were you with? On my own. And then what made you return home? Over the page. Police brought me back. You're getting quite short, undeveloped answers.
I think reading this, it looks like there was engagement, but there wasn't engagement. This was very hard to get out of him, what I did get out of him.
That's helpful, thank you. At the bottom of page 3, you say a discussion was had around the risks associated with going missing and exploitation. We also talked about the risks around safety when being unaccompanied in the community. AR appeared to understand. Conducting 8 or so of these interviews a day, you presumably got quite practiced at discussing, telling young people about the risks involved with going missing.
Yeah.
Do you think this was a discussion, or was this you telling him and him seeming to understand but not really engaging with it?
It says a discussion, but it wasn't a discussion. Really, it was me just explaining, yeah.
And when it says he appeared to understand, do you remember if he gave any verbal indication of that, or if he nodded, or if he just seemed to be listening?
I remember at the end, I do remember him just not engaging at all, just probably nodding.
And then top of page 4, he says, "I'm happy at home. It was just an argument. I had a talk with the police and I won't go again." And then no other issues raised. Do you think he was basically just trying to shut this line of inquiry down?
Yes.
Is that something that you should have been alert to, that as a sign of risk, a young person who doesn't want to talk about the issues and the reasons why they may have gone missing?
Yeah.
Can we look to the next page, page 5? Recommendations. We see this is in a different font. You don't think you wrote this?
Initially, yes, that's what I said. I kind of looked at it and when it was shown to me. And then since discussing it, then I feel I've copied and pasted it.
Okay.
I feel that has possibly come through. It's not helpful because I'd like to see what was sent to me on the, from my manager. And I feel that this is possibly what was sent on it, that he was on the bus with a knife, but then that was with it.
So you think that may have been something that you put into the form, not based on information that you'd gained from the return home interview, but on information that was in the referral that you received?
Yes.
All right, thank you. The other boxes on the form, do you think you entered those, again, as a result of what you did in the interview?
Yes.
In your statement, you say that you didn't discuss the case with AR's mother at all, paragraph 44. If it's right, you wrote the bottom box, which seems likely. Then, in fact, there was some discussion, discussed the missing episode with Mum. She agreed she does not need any further support. If she'd said anything about contacting CAMS or GP, would you have recorded that there?
Yes.
What about anything about knives and hiding them from AR?
No, nothing was discussed.
Nothing discussed about that because you would have recorded it if it had been. In your witness statement, Ms. Chapman, you very candidly accepted that this form is not good enough in terms of the notes that it records and the information it records, and that you didn't interrogate AR enough or challenge him more thoroughly. We'll come to the effect of what you didn't know shortly, but even on the information you had, for example, that AR was found on the bus with a knife, you didn't display enough professional curiosity or challenge here, did you?
No, I didn't.
And we can't say how AR might have responded had you done so, but there were at least some threads there to pull to try to inquire more deeply. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's fair.
After the interview, you write the handwritten notes up into this form. There was a record of this being uploaded to children's social care systems. I think we have a couple of records, one that perhaps suggests 22nd of March, one that suggests 23rd of March, but relatively soon after the interview.
Okay.
Would that be your usual practice, within a day or so, to have the notes written up and passed on to whoever needed to receive them?
To try your best to, yeah.
One thing that those notes record, and again, sir, for your note, LCC 002301, page 31, is that it was sent to Police and Health. How would that be you sending that?
Yes.
Do you know where it went to within the police, for example?
No, I don't, I'm sorry.
Health, I think you say you think it went to the GP.
We just had the 2 email addresses. One was the police and one was the health.
I see. We've looked at the record, you recall the one that mentioned poison that had the green text at the end. That was how Lancashire was following up PC Road's police safeguarding referral put in after AR returned. And you don't think that crossed your desk at all, so to speak?
No.
Does it come to this then, Ms Chapman? There's 2 referrals received by the police received from the police on the same day. One after the child goes missing, one after the child returns home. They end up being handled essentially separately from each other by LCC.
Sorry, I don't understand your question.
You seem to be responding to the initial child has gone missing and then that episode is closed that has been raised. There is a separate referral, the one we saw where there were a number of failed contacts with the mother and that referred to the poison but that is then closed, that you were never aware of.
No, I weren't aware of.
So 2 referrals about the same child on the same day, about the same missing episode, one at the start and one at the end, that end up being handled totally separately, and you, as the person conducting the return home interview, are only aware of half the picture.
Yes.
The effect of that is that you, as the only person from LCC who goes to CAR after this incident, were wholly lacking critical information. Had you had that information, do you think you would have been more likely to press AR further on those threads that we mentioned?
Conducting a joint visit, yes.
A joint visit with who?
With another colleague. If I'd have read poison, the knife, yes.
Do you think you'd have been more likely to recommend that some follow-up was required?
Absolutely.
Is it fair to say this, that the combination of, one, the lack of professional curiosity that you very candidly accept, and 2, the fact that you were not given anything like all of the information you needed, meant that Lancashire County Council's opportunity to identify any wider or more concerning issues out of this episode of AR going missing was wholly lost?
Yes.
Ms Chapman, before I turn to my left and see if there are any other questions, is there anything else you would like to add?
No, thank you.
Sir, do you have any questions?
Ms Chapman, you've been incredibly frank in both what you've said to the inquiry, but also in your original witness statement. And I'm very grateful to you for that and for your attendance today.
Okay, thank you.
Now free to go. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Sir?
More witnesses tonight, Mr Goss?
I think we might be done for today, sir. Tomorrow we have Miss Barrett, Miss Williams, Miss Ashworth and Miss Fontaine-Smith. So another full day tomorrow, sir.
Certainly, and I think there's some reading to be
we will find time for that at some point. So could we invite a 9:30 start tomorrow?
Certainly.
Grateful.
We'll sit again at 9:30 tomorrow morning.